Welcome to the Jamal Thomas Show. My name is Jamal Thomas. It is not morning, it is evening. It is morning where I am. We're in the middle of a thunderstorm, but that is okay. We're not the only ones that are in the middle of a thunderstorm, right? Um, I thought it would be informative to give you the latest updates on what has been taking place because there's been a lot of news that have come out, and the news is rather important, significant, terrifying, interesting. All of those things. Those things are not independent of each other, right? So I wanted to go through some of the best photos of what seems to be Israel under bombardment. And what I mean by that is they seem to have lost the capacity to stop anything coming out of Iran. And yes, this is including with the US, I would imagine the UK doing what they can to effectively help. But all things being equal, when Iran fires something in the sky, it lands, and it lands with a devastating force. And for all of the talk of, oh my God, Iran is running out of missiles, some of this stuff is psychological, right? Like you are telling people we're about to bomb, and then nothing comes. And they're like, hey, maybe they're running out of missiles. And then all of a sudden, bam, all of these missiles hit. And it's like, oh my God, I guess they're not running out of missiles. And what does that do to psychology of the people who are under that bombardment, who are not used to being under bombardment? They're used to shooting kids in the back. They're used to shooting, starving people. They're used to shooting and killing women and children. They're used to burning kids alive. They're not used to those kids having missiles to fight back. They're used to bombing Lebanon, somebody who can't even fire a bullet in passionate anger and righteous indignation. That's what they're used to. So what happens when they're confronted with someone who can not just throw a rock, who can not just stand there and watch you as you take their land, but who can hit you with rage? Have you ever been hit by a man in anger? It's that, right? And what do you do when the man turns around and punches you square in the mouth? What did they say? Everybody has a plan until you get hit in the mouth. Okay, Israel got their sneak attack in, working with Donald Trump to do it. Donald Trump, stupid enough to believe that this is going to be the end all be all. And come 48 hours, give or take, when they cobble their strength together and the bombardment starts. And initially, you feel pretty good about yourself. We're knocking their stuff out the sky. We're bombarding them too. And then it goes another day, and another day, and another day. And they're not stopping. And they say, not only are we not stopping, we can do this for 5 months. Not only are we expending our old missiles with you wasting your air defense on stuff that we had in the bank for 20 years, we have new stuff. We have better stuff. And now that you've expended your air defense, our drones can go through. And our drones have little bomblets on the drones that can also attack you. And we have missiles that have missiles within the missiles. Meaning, it sounded good in the beginning when they were riding on their high horse, rummaging through Ukraine, killing Russians and everything else. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong group of Nazis. When they had their first strike, when they were killing Palestinians, when they were killing people from the West Bank, when they were going into Syria, taking land in Syria, when they were killing the Lebanese, oh, it feels good. We feel great. We're Ubermen. We're God's chosen people. Look at those Muslims, these hapless Muslims that can't do anything about it. Oh, look at Iran. Iran, you looking sexy over there. Maybe we need to go after you. And Iran says, don't do it. And they look at all of the other people that they've been able to kill. We've been able to kill 100,000 people. Nobody did anything about it. We're acting with complete impunity. Iran says, the stove is hot. We warn you. We will fire off True Promise 1, and we will tell the U.S. where things are going to be so they can shoot it down. This is just a demonstration of capability. And they say you are weak because we're sociopaths, and we know that if you're not going to respond, that means you don't have the capability to respond. Okay. True Promise 2. We hit your base. We show that we can go through your air defense. And they say, we think you're weak. You didn't follow through. There was no True Promise 3. You just said it You warned it and you didn't do anything about it. And so we think you're weak. We think your appeasement strategy of negotiation, we think your inability to follow through is not because you have that capability. We believe you don't have that capability. And in the middle of negotiations, you do a sneak attack. And what does that do to the rest of the world? The rest of the world says, okay, whatever Iran does to remedy this issue is fair game. And you've allowed a country that is a pent-up rage that has been brewing for decades, that have watched you murder and commit genocide. You've allowed that country to unleash holy hell, and to unleash it with a righteous indignation, with a passion that is phenomenal. And as you suffer, the world applauds. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? I want to show some of these images. These things are astonishing. And as I get to the end, I'm going to go into news that is happening also. This video maybe it's about 30 minutes, give or take. It will be interesting to watch what is happening. I'm going to enjoy some really good coffee as we watch this together. Let's be very clear. While we are enjoying this together now, and yes, I will use that term enjoy. Fuck it. I'm honest. There is hell to come. Just be aware. There are bad times that are going to come. There are going to be challenging times that are going to come. We are going to be at the brink of disaster. And it is going to be unclear where that breaks. And the notion of having rational people that are in charge to manage that, it's not on the table. Hubris, arrogance, those things are not elements of survival. But that is what our government effectively is full of. Hubris, bowel, racist, mendacious, all of these negative qualities that they have effectively filled themselves with, that they are operating in the world with. This is not the JFK administration where they are putting the military to the side and say, hey, go sit in the corner. We're not going to end the world. This is not the same situation. We have a TV host as the Defense Department, head of the Defense Department. We have a bunch of sycophants who are in all of these other organizations that effectively kiss Trump's ass fervently and you know, emancipatorily. And we have a president that is quite possibly one of the dumbest presidents we've ever had in American history. This is the situation to which we're presented. And we have actors on the other side that is our opposition, that is cunning, that understands the situation to which they find themselves in a way that I don't think we do. And while they may have choices that they're making, they are also making their own strategic plans to deal with the strategic plans of empire that feels itself slipping, or power slipping away. One last point before I go into the videos. The media doesn't explain this correctly. And I don't even think they explain it honestly. I'm not even sure if they know. We have an empire in this country. And the empire is not just America by itself. It's effectively the white world. I don't mean that derisively towards white people. I'm just saying it's Europe, America, with America being the lead because America is the strongest country in that regard. You have Canada, you have Australia added to it. Sometimes you have Japan. But you have a power structure that has been in place ever since the Second World War, with the United States being the predominant power in that power structure. If you've noticed, we've been vomiting up very ridiculous figures in our political space. We have a government that's $36 trillion in debt that's probably going to go to $50 trillion in debt. That money is not used to the betterment of the population. That money is effectively used to enrich oligarchs. The public feels it, even if they don't entirely know it. But what they realize, almost as if you're playing a chess game where two people have made the choice of saying, hey, that square is important. And what that square is, let's say it's not a square, let's say it's a condition. The condition is, if we don't do anything and we let the world go to its own devices, China, Russia, Iran, hell, maybe even North Korea, these countries that end up in BRICS, South Africa, Africa proper, meaning the entire continent of Africa, these are going to grow and they're going to prosper. And they're going to grow and prosper in a way that is going to be militarily strong, industrially strong. If you're looking at Russia militarily, China industrially, that is going to be a force to reckon with. And hegemony is slipping away. It's multipolarity. Now, for all that Trump talks about it, oh, we're okay with this nonsense. That is not the way that is breaking down. They look at that with a certain amount of terror of that if we can't control the globe, maybe we will be dominated by that same globe, and we can't allow that. So you get a conflict in Ukraine using a proxy, with Ukraine as a proxy, basically using Nazis. That doesn't work. A level of desperation where they're literally bringing the world to the brink of disaster. They say, okay, so Europe, we need you to take that ball and deal with that. Israel, we need you to go after the countries in the Middle East because we want to now try to remedy that issue. So we're going to fill the Trump administration full of Zionists, whack jobs, lunatics, and we're going to go after Iran. It's by itself. We've been able to take down the other countries in the Middle East. Yes, it's taken 20-something years, but damn it, we have it isolated. So now we're going after Iran. Meaning we want to be able to pivot to China. But it's not happenstance that the countries that we're going after just so happen are some of the major countries in BRICS and some of the major countries in opposition to US and European policy. Europe is not honest. They've destroyed all of these institutions that were supposed to be a hallmark of liberalism. And so what you have now is a hollowed out empire of sorts that is desperate, that feels its power slipping away and is gambling on these countries to effectively find a way to get that power back. I want to show some of these images because some of these images are just astonishing. And I would imagine the people in Israel never thought that this day would come. And I am very curious on whether or not they're going to blame their government for it, or if they're going to be like Germans and Austrians when the Soviets come into the country thinking to themselves, oh my God, what have we ever done to deserve this? First and foremost, as I always tell you, orienting principle first. This is where we need to start. Trigger warning, by the way, just in case. This is, start here. This is Israel. That was not a military target. There was no military in that. It was just hatred, racism, and bow. That's all it was. Nazis be Nazis, right? Let's go to the next one. This is what condition they put people in now as we speak. Where this man just collapsed as he was trying to get food. Collapsed as he was trying to get food. As you know, they've been starving the population for the last several years. And they've ended up with these BS areas for people to get food where they've been killing people as they've been trying to get food in these areas. This man was trying to get food and his body gave out on him as he was trying to get food. This is what Israel is doing as we speak right now. Let's keep going. I find this to be important, which is why I always orient it in this particular way. God apparently gave this point of view. The bird down to also make his feelings known.
עזוב את הדגל, בחייאת. אני בשוק. עורב, מה? אני בהלם. אני בשוק.
That bird is doing God's work. That bird is doing God's work. Let's go to the next one. Again, trigger warning, just for people to know. Over the last 24 hours, Israel is still bombing. They've killed 100 people. This is one of the camps that they've bombed. I think this is called Jambalaya in northern Gaza. Another image of that. Again, these are not military targets. And just to be clear, to make this even worse, just so you understand why they're doing this. As they get taken apart by Iran, you can imagine there's a certain amount of rage that is building up in them as they get taken apart by Iran. A Muslim fist coming from the sky, bashing all of their belief in themselves. And what they can do, because they can't do it to Iran, they take it out on the Palestinian population. It's disgusting. But let's be very clear, they've been doing this for the last several years. So whether Iran is pounding them and they're making the situation worse, or whether they're just being vile, hateful, racist people, both of those things were happening anyway, right? So it's not like we can say, well, Iran is making this worse. Iran is not making this worse. They've been doing this for 2 years. Let's keep going. Now let's get into what I consider to be righteous vengeance. Righteous vengeance. First one, let's start here. I'm going to go through some of the strikes that have taken place just in general, and then I'm going to make this more specific in regards to the strikes that have been taking place over the last few days. So here is a list, or a few of them, while we
An Iranian strike deep in the heart of Tel Aviv. For the fifth straight day, the skies above the city lit up as Israel's air defense system intercepted one Iranian missile after another.
Didn't intercept the one that hit that building, did it?
Deep in the heart of Tel Aviv.
Okay, let's keep going. The next one we're going to watch is another, this one is, I guess, a view of several strikes. But again, I want to get more specific, but I wanted to give what has been taking place before I get into what has been taking place last night. Okay, somebody put a soundtrack. I don't need a soundtrack. Whew, this is some good coffee. What is that, Folgers? Yep, that is some good coffee. Let's keep going. Here's one more specific. This is what Tel Aviv is looking like today. Looks a little bit like Gaza, doesn't it? Ooh, that building's still smoking. That thing's still up. I don't know what he's saying, but I don't think it's, this is fantastic. Let's keep going. This, if I'm not mistaken, is another strike.
Wow.
I think he said, wow. Wow. That's a powerful missile. Let's keep going. Here's another one. You can hear it. Bam! Bird's eye view. Bam! Look at all the flak they threw into the air that apparently just missed. That is amazing. Let's go to the next one. So this one is a view what is happening on the ground. Shout out to person who did this. I suppose that was the last military strike we watched. Aftermath. That is amazing. Let's keep going. This is, this is the Weizmann Institute of Science. This is what it looks like today. This was one of their main technical centers, the schools. Emphasize was. Hey, maybe they can, get some science and tech to figure out how to rebuild that. But I don't get the sense that it's going to be a school anymore. Let's keep going. I have a few of these. If I'm not mistaken, this was a failed launch that fell back to Earth. What the hell are these people thinking? Let's keep going. What is this one? Oh, I know what this is. I would tell you one of my guilty pleasures is watching air defense fail. That was an Iranian strike that just nailed the air defense. And what's funny, it fired one off at the end. It's like, dude, it's too late. You missed. It's like you missed. It's like it got hit and it was like, pew, after the fact. At the point at which you get hit, it's too late. It's too late. I appreciate your commitment to the job, but it's too late at that point. Here's the next one. This one is, IDF headquarters. Excellent. IDF headquarters. Come on, show it. You can hear it. Oh, there it is. Now, this hit is important, and I want to add more context. Let's watch it for right now. All right. IDF headquarters gets hit. Again, these are military targets. All right, the building's still standing. Now, what's important is that the command center, here's another view of it. You can see it in the background, taking a hit. And then you hit a shockwave. Ain't that cool? Speed of sound versus the speed of light. You see it, then you hear it. That's how much slower sound is compared to light. It's fascinating. We get a physics lesson also. Let's keep going. Now, this is inside Sorok Hospital, because this has been one of the things that have been going around. Now, I will be, come on. Right. I will be brutally honest with you. The reason I showed you Israel blowing up the cancer hospital is because Israel has damaged every hospital in Gaza. And they've had no issue with doing so. Now they're complaining that one of their hospitals got hit. Newsflash, the hospital didn't get hit. They built a hospital around the command center. And so in hitting the command center, or trying to hit the command center, there was blowback that ended up hitting the hospital. As you saw the shockwave, when you saw it, and then you felt the shockwave, you can hear it at that point. Imagine if you hit a command center and hospitals across the street or nearby the command center. Well, you can imagine any building that's in the area is going to take a hit. Nobody told Israel to use human shields, right? If they are building military bases under hospitals, or for that matter, building bases around hospitals, then you cannot be shocked, nor can you scream hysterically at the point where it experiences damage, especially when you have yourself been blowing up hospitals maliciously all throughout Gaza. Don't cry to me. Don't cry to me on this. I don't care. But beyond me not caring, the major point here is that they didn't just hit a hospital. That wasn't the objective. To make this point even clearer, I want to go to the next one. Here's another angle for this. The damage that took place in the hospital is a shockwave. Now, to make this point even clearer, here's a military base under a hospital. Every accusation is a confession. They put a military base under a hospital. Ain't that amazing? Ain't that amazing? The reason I'm showing this is because it's important. For them to try to manufacture consent in the US media where all of a sudden they care about hospitals being blown up, they haven't up to this point, right? But for them to try to manufacture that particular consent, it's like, dude, you are literally building bases under your hospitals. How are you complaining? Dude, you have destroyed every hospital in Gaza. How are you complaining? How are you complaining to me? How are you really weeping tears to me when you have destroyed all of these devices in Gaza that people need? You blew up a fucking cancer hospital. Put that in context. People who already have a miserable fucking life because they have cancer. In the hospital that they were going to, the last one. And because you are using human shields and your place gets tepidly hit, you should be praying, you should be thanking Jesus that it's still up. To make this point clear, and yes, I'm going to beat this horse into the ground. Jerusalem Post article. The Jerusalem Post article makes the point that they moved their command center near a hospital. Right here. Jerusalem Post article reveals how Israel intentionally built military facilities in close proximity to Socorro Hospital. An Israeli Army C4 Directorate base is located within the walking distance, as confirmed in a March article of Jerusalem Post. They chose to build their command center near the hospital. They chose it. Nobody forced them, they chose it. Why don't they go fight in the open? Is what they used to say. And to be very clear also, many of the people that were at that hospital were soldiers. They were soldiers. So there's that. Don't cry to me over this. You were blowing up hospitals maliciously. You lied and said that there were bases on the hospitals that you were invading and blowing up. You dressed up as doctors and went into hospitals in order to kill people in their beds. You attacked journalists in hospitals with missiles and bombs and whatnot. How are you crying about your hospital getting tepidly hit? Stop using human shields. Come out to fight like a man, right? Let's keep going. And one last point. Under Israeli rules, if there is even one guy, if there is one IDF dog walker that is in that hospital, it's fair game. That is what they were making when they were saying Hamas, hey, we found a gun here, so this is fair game. We can blow up an apartment building. Even if there's 100 people in that apartment building, if there's one guy in it, it's fair game. These are not my rules. I think these rules are grotesque. These are the rules that Israel and the US fashioned, ran with, and thought it was perfectly okay. Why are you crying now? That's my question. Why are you crying now? Let's keep going. Here is more damage. This one is to the financial sector. You can imagine that this is going to hurt because it's in the financial sector. Right here. Apparently, they lost several $billions over the course of the day. Woof. That is rough. $475 billion up in smoke. Just like that. Man, this is some fantastic coffee. What is this, Folgers? Nestle coffee, Nestle Gold. Whew, this is some good coffee. Let's keep going. Here's another view of it. That building looks rough. That's what happened. Let's keep going. There's more. There is more. All right. Stop that siren. It's getting annoying. I think I showed that one already, so we don't have to show this one again. Let's go to this one. This is, oh, okay. Now we're in the damage portion of the skits. So let's show this. This is the aftermath of some of the damage they're dealing with. Tel Aviv, not Gaza. I wonder, did they know when they were destroying Gaza in the way that they were in Lebanon and Syria and the West Bank? Did they know this day was coming? Or did they think they were going to be able to do this with impunity forever? Here's more damage. That is some good camera work. That is some fantastic camera work. Kudos to the cameraman. Let's keep going. There is more. Here is more damage from the barrage of his Iranian missiles. I think this took place either today or yesterday. Wow. That is impressive. Ooh. Don't piss off the Iranians, right? Don't piss off the Iranians. This is Haifa, energy production. That's why you saw them in the gas station the other day, limiting fuel. Let's keep going. And I think Garland made this joke about Samsonite option. Garland Nixon, I think, said that Samsonite option. Chosen people went to their chosen flight. Where are you going? So what? You're not happy squatting in somebody's house anymore? Here's an exodus. No. It's gone with the Samsonite option. All right, let's keep going. Now, on the other side, what you have is a little bit different. Whereas the Israelis are freaking out, they're in bomb shelters and everything else, what you have on the other side is effectively celebration. This is them celebrating their government, showing solidarity, proud, strong, resolute. They're not hiding in bomb shelters. They're not running away. That's strength. Whereas one side seems to be falling apart. The other side seems to be remaining strong and consistent. That matters. That matters greatly. Let's go to the next one. Okay, now we're in the portion of news. There is a looming question that I don't think any of us know. Well, for one, apparently Israel tried to assassinate Argachi, this guy. This is the lead negotiator for the Iranian side. Apparently they tried to kill him. He's alive, so thankfully he's still alive. In regards to the news portion is fascinating. There are a few things that are taking place. One, Seymour Hersh put out an article where he's effectively saying that Donald Trump is planning a military campaign with the point of regime change. And in that campaign, it's supposed to take place over the course of several days. In fact, I'll just show it. And I'll read parts of this just for accuracy. Shout out to DD Geopolitical, Sarah Bill's outlet. She's fantastic. Not just beautiful, there's a brain behind it. Even better. American investigative journalist Seymour Hersh in his latest Substack article wrote a major U.S. bombing campaign against Iran is expected to begin as early this weekend, according to trusted Israeli and American sources. Approved by the Trump administration, the strikes will focus on key military and nuclear infrastructure, including fortified Fordow facility, where Iran's most advanced centrifuges are located deep underground. The delay in timing, Hersh reports, is due to Trump's desire to avoid disrupting U.S. markets when trading opens on Monday. Now, it needs to be stated that Putin pointed out that Iran's centrifuges and everything else are intact, that the bombing that Israel has done has not touched them, and that many of those things have been moved to safe locations. Again, for all of the talk about bombing this location, this facility, this is not about nukes. It's not about nukes. Even our own assessment makes it clear. And if our own assessment is saying they're not trying to get a nuke, then why all the talk about nukes? It's not about nukes. Let's keep going. The operation goes beyond targeting Iran's nuclear capacity. It aims to destabilize the country's leadership. U.S. and Israeli planners are counting on internal unrest to break out, hoping that the strikes on military bases, police stations, and administrative centers will incite broader opposition. Hersh says that they even unconfirmed reports that Ayatollah Khamenei may have left Tehran. Okay, I think this is nonsense. But again, this is effectively what you're getting out of hopeful media as opposed to actual media. And he's not saying that that's what's happening. He's saying that they are reporting that. I don't believe much of anything that comes out of Iranian media. And even, just as much, I even believe our own media. It's often nonsense. While some in Washington still favor installing a moderate religious figure to lead the country in a transitional phase, Israeli officials reportedly reject and pushing instead for full political control and a loyal replacement. So in their minds, what they want is either we want to destroy the Iranian government and put in a puppet that is going to transition into something else that's more in our favor, or we want the Syrian model, where we have a completely loyal puppet that effectively smashes the entirety of the state. And we are going to bomb civilian infrastructure, architecture, in order to create and foment that change like they did in Libya. That's astonishing. I would say Iran is not Libya, and this may be their plans, but let's see if these plans can come to fruition. As I pointed out to you before I started this, they are very dark times coming, and monsters are at the gates. I wasn't saying that figuratively, I was saying that literally. So what is everybody else doing, major powers? Because obviously Russia and China have a vested interest in not seeing this coming to fruition. Well, as you know, China has been giving deliveries hand over fist from the beginning of this. They put out a condemnation and they've been sending ships, airplanes, cargo planes full of materials that allow Iran to withstand. Not just that, though. Look at this. This is a Chinese electronic surveillance ship in the Persian Gulf. Ain't that something? So China is in the Persian Gulf also getting intelligence. And who do you think they're giving that intelligence to? Who do you think they're giving it to? Ain't that fascinating? Let's go to the next one. This is Putin. Listen to what Putin says here, because I don't think Putin says stuff arbitrarily. If they're giving out a sentiment, you have to kind of listen to it to figure out what does he mean by it, because they can be somewhat understated. What he is saying here, though, in relation to, hey, we have nuclear scientists, hundreds of them, in Iran. Don't touch those sites. That's effectively what you don't touch them. Don't touch them. We have Russian scientists there helping them build their nuclear power plants. Leave them be. Listen to what he says.
Мы, как вы знаете, в свое время подхватили проект в Иране, который осуществлялся немецкими компаниями, и достроили атомную электростанцию Бушер. Мы заключили контракт на строительство еще 2 блоков. Работы идут, и наши специалисты находятся на площадке. Это свыше 200 человек. И мы договорились с руководством Израиля, что будет обеспечена их безопасность.
Now, do you honestly believe that their safety is ensured in the way that Putin is saying. Second question, are those people a tripwire? Are they a tripwire? If you kill several Russian scientists because you bomb a nuclear facility after telling Russia, or apparently having some agreement that you wouldn't do that, what does Russia do in that situation? Isn't that interesting? So Russia has effectively allowed themselves a way to get on the ground to, on some level, shield nuclear facilities. And just be very clear, this is what the Europeans wanted to do in Ukraine, right? The thought being, well, the Russians are not going to attack us. So if we put troops on the ground in Ukraine, they won't kill our troops because we're Europeans. We're fucking awesome. We think highly of ourselves. Our lives are important. And if they attack us, maybe we'll get more militarily involved so we can be a tripwire. That was the thinking. The problem with that thinking is that Russia has said flat out, we will kill all of you. We will hunt you down and kill you. A country of 8 million people does not have the balls to say that. So for Russia to say, just so you know, 200 of us are there, and you can fill in the details of how we are going to take it if they are injured to any degree. That is the way I read that. That is the way I read that. All right, let's keep going. There's more. You also get Russia that is being more vocal now about these plans that are coming out for regime change, because at this point they know, just like China knows, the objective of this is to take down the Iranian government. Now, as I said before, they are going to let this play out because they want to see how does this unfold before we throw our chips on the table. We need to see what happens. We cannot, escalate without seeing what the contours of the space is before we escalate. So we will watch, and we will assist Iran in any way we can assist Iran against what we know is U.S. aggression from the standpoint of empire, with Israel as a proxy. But keep in mind, the more the U.S. touches it, the more they get involved, the more of a likelihood, especially if Iran starts to wobble, the more of a likelihood for these other countries to start to get more vocal in their opposition to what is happening. And the fact that it's become very clear that the U.S. is going to get involved, as I kept saying they were, you're starting getting strongly worded statements coming out of Moscow in a way that you were not before. This is Maria Sakharova. I like the suit that she's in, by the way. She looks very badass in that suit.
Stop attacks on nuclear installations, and Russia calls on the Israeli leadership to come to senses and immediately stop attacks on nuclear installations and sites under safeguards and subject to IAEA verification activities. And we're particularly concerned about the safety of the Bushehr nuclear power plant, which employs Russian specialists. Today, the main thing is to prevent further spiraling of violence, to achieve ceasefire and restore peace, which in turn will create the prerequisites for bringing the situation back to the negotiation table. We would like to particularly warn Washington against military intervention in the situation, which would be an extremely dangerous step with truly unpredictable negative consequences.
Right there. Right there, right there, right there. We would like to warn Washington that you intervening will have unpredictable consequences to you intervening. Let's be very clear. Russia could pull out their scientists. They could say, this is problematic. We don't want these people to get hurt. We are pulling them out. We're bringing them back to Russia. We could do that. But they're not doing that. They're not doing that. They're not pulling them out. They're in the middle of a war zone. And yet Russia is leaving them there. And their secondary saying, in a very understated way, something that I've said, you have no idea the hell you're about to create, because you don't know, A, the capability of Iran, even by itself, B, You have no idea if other countries start to get involved. And are you really willing to take that path when it's radically unpredictable? This goes to where I started. Hubris, arrogance. These things are not aspects of survival. These things are not survival traits. But these are the things that Washington is full of. And so you're getting Russia effectively saying, hey, and look, we don't know if there's anything behind that, right? It could just be a warning. But hey, you militarily intervening will have unpredictable consequences to the region. Beware. Don't do it. You get Peskov, who also gave his point of view in this. Peskov was asked a question about it. This is what Peskov had to say.
И это говорит о том, что, конечно, насколько Запад сейчас в состоянии вообще свергнуть тем или иным путем правительство Ирана. Ну, если мы вспомним с вами встречу, которую накануне провел президент Путин с руководителями международных информационных агентств, когда ему задали вопрос по этой теме, он сказал, я даже не хочу об этом говорить. И это говорит о том, что, конечно, это является совершенно неприемлемым. Сама постановка такого вопроса является для нас неприемлемым. Мы считаем, что это непозволительно вести такие разговоры, и тем более непозволительно предпринимать такие действия.
We believe it is entirely unacceptable to us to even have the conversation, like to even countenance this, to even bring this up to us is unacceptable. Now, again, is that a strongly worded letter, or is there something else behind that? There's a question that looms in the air. I don't have an answer to it. And sociopaths don't care. They don't believe appeasement and those type of things. But this is hitting at something that is significant. It is not minor. If Russia looks at the geography for a moment, and they say to themselves, okay, if Iran is gone, we are going to be damaged by this. And we're going to be damaged by this in a way that Washington is going to come back around to isolate China and Russia. Now, yes, China could probably get its gas from somewhere else. But, I was on Canadian Preppers, and he said something I didn't even think of. The moment that Iran is taken down and you have effectively a compliant government in Iran, they own energy production in the entire region. Saudi Arabia is going to be under that much more pressure, where it's going to be that much more of a quisling government. And so you now have Western powers, effectively led by the United States, owning and controlling massive energy sector. Is that acceptable? Is that acceptable? All right, one more. At least I thought there was one more. Maybe there's not one more. Yes, there is one more. Putin, in having a conversation, pointed out that the Iranians have not asked them for help. And he even went so far, right here. There's one more. This. Listen to what he says here, and I know it's in Russian. And again, they have this way of talking in very understated ways. But he points out, look, Iran didn't ask us for help. At least not yet. And it's the not yet part that I am fascinated by.
Мы когда-то предлагали нашим иранским друзьям поработать в области системы ПВО. Так большого интереса тогда партнеры не проявили. И все. Что касается договора, о котором мы сказали, о стратегическом партнерстве, там нет статей, связанных с оборонной сферой. Это второе. А третье, наши иранские друзья об этом и не просят. Потому что практически нечего обсуждать. Мы когда-то предлагали нашим иранским друзьям поработать в области системы ПВО. Так большого интереса тогда партнеры не проявили, ну и все. Что касается договора, о котором сказали, о стратегическом партнерстве, там нет статей, связанных с оборонной сферой. Это второе. А третье, наши иранские друзья об этом и не просят. Так что практически нечего обсуждать. Мы как...
Maybe I misunderstood that, or maybe I have the wrong clip. I could have swore in one of those clips he pointed out they haven't asked us for anything. Effectively, they don't, we've offered, they didn't accept. But there was a yet in it. Maybe I got it wrong. Okay, I didn't get it wrong. It is this clip. It is this clip. It is this clip. Wait a minute. Where is it? Okay, I'm not insane. So it's this part. It wasn't something that he said, or he said it, but it was off the clip. So Putin, he says, Iran didn't want our help. If the situation escalates, we'll see if they will need help. Iran agreement does not have defensive clause. Iran did not ask Russia for help. Iran did not want cooperation with Russia on air defense previously. They fight alone. They're proud. They're self-reliant. So effectively leaving the door open. Hey, they didn't want our help yet. They may want it at some point. We'll see when the situation escalates. So again, my point that for people screaming, why isn't China or why is not Russia not getting involved? They need to see what happens. It has to play out before they decide what they actually want to do. Maybe America backs away. I don't think that's the case, but maybe they do. Maybe Israel gets brutalized to such a degree when Netanyahu falls and something else happens. Meaning they don't know. They may have an idea of what happens, but they don't know it's a flat fact what happens. So this is where we are. Let's go through the chats because I'm curious on your guys' thinking on this. On Chili Pepper, probably Hexef, quote, this is the chance to do this regime once and for all, so we might as well go big. Yes, this is what they're thinking. That's not just Hexef, that's all of them. Do you think that Netanyahu is thinking to himself, hey, we have a stupid president. He's full and surrounded by Zionists. We have a certain level of control of Congress. This is our chance. So yes, we're going to kill as many Palestinians as possible. We're going to evict as many as possible. We're going to take the West Bank. We're going to take parts of Syria. We're going to take parts of Lebanon. We're going to create a greater Israel, and we're going to cut the head off the snake, Iran. And we're going to have U.S. backing to do it for us. That is exactly what they're thinking. That is exactly what they're doing. So that's not a Hegseth thing. That's a U.S. policy thing. This is something that the U.S. wants. Yes, Israel wants it too, but this is what the U.S. wants. And they're perfectly happy with Israel trying to do it, failing at it, and then the U.S. using it as a casus belli to get involved in the war. This is what they wanted. They wanted this for 20 years, 30 years. It's coming to a head right now. It's a crisis point. The question is, as I keep saying, Game of Thrones, power is a shadow on the wall. The moment that you throw your chips on the table, you are actualizing power. It's not conceptual anymore. It's not, I think they can do. It's you're doing. And either you're going to succeed or you're going to fail. My logic, habitual liars lie. I think that's almost like a rule of gravity. But racist people full of hubris and bile don't see the world clearly. I don't think they do. They wouldn't be racist if they did see it clearly. So these people can have all the plans in the world. A plan is one thing. Actualize that plan is something else. This is not 2000. This is not 2003. Iran is not Iraq. And those missile carriers are vulnerable. Those ships are vulnerable. Yes, for whatever reason, they decided that they did not want to work with the Russians on air defense. I think that is a woeful mistake. That is a horrendous mistake, especially since you don't have air power yourself. But whatever, they made that choice. They're going to have to live with that choice. And there are going to be a lot of people that get killed because of that choice. But that doesn't mean that you're going to overthrow their government. nor does it mean you're going to succeed in what you're trying to accomplish. So when I say there are rough days ahead, this is what I mean. I think a lot of people are going to die. And not just a lot of people are going to die. This is going to escalate. And when it does escalate, there's going to be a question that is going to be looming for other powers. What are you going to do? Do you let it fall? Do you only give material support? Or do you do more? Do you do more? Let's keep going. Matt Lax, the bird is doing God's work. The bird is doing God's work. What do you mean? Why are you laughing? The bird is doing God's work. The bird is fantastic. The bird is fantastic. And just for people who may not know what I'm talking about, wait a minute, let me see if I can find that bird. That bird was sent by God, right? God sent a message as delivered by that bird. Where was that bird at? Bird is doing God's work. That bird is a symbol of the revolution. God damn it, where's that bird? Right here, right here, right here, right here. From my point of view, that bird got there through providence. That bird could have been doing anything.
אורב!
But this is
אנרכיסט! הלו! עזוב את הדגל, בחייאת! אני בשוק. עורב! עורב, מה? אני בהלם. אני בשוק.
that bird is doing God's work. I stand by that comment. That bird is a physical representation of God's point of view. God is unhappy with Israel. It's unhappy with his chosen people. Metlax, Jamal, at what point will Israel or Trump use nukes because they are losing? Oh, don't ask me that. I have no idea. There's no way to know that. There's no way to know it. But see, that's the problem that Iran is in, right? If you allow yourself to be bullied by nukes, then they can do anything. What if they say, well, you hitting our headquarters was a red line, and so we want to use nukes? Okay, that's interesting. Somebody pointed out, well, how do you know those are Israeli nukes and not the US nukes? Because they stole them. They smuggled that stuff out. If you remember, I'll call it a rumor, I think it's stronger than a rumor, that part of the reason JFK was assassinated is because he was trying to deal with the fact that Israel had nukes and that he did not want them to have nukes. So this wasn't something that they just developed. This was something they stole. There's a difference in those things, which means it's under their control. When do they get to the point of using them? I don't know. I personally didn't think that a genocide could be committed with everybody watching. That shocked the shit out of me. So there is no Leviathan. The envelope is pushed and people get accustomed to the fact that the envelope is pushed and it becomes a new norm, which is what happened with the genocide that took place over the last 2 years, give or take. So are people who find themselves with complete impunity, killing, maiming, raping, burning kids alive, blowing up hospitals, attacking schools, destroying UN buildings, shooting at UN workers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, with the entire world watching them do it. With people that insane, that level of bile and hatred, that group of troglodytes or country of troglodytes who believe that God chose them for land that belonged to somebody else and that they can just squat on that land and steal additional land from other people to create their quote unquote greater Israel. Are people like that inhibited by using a nuke? Up to this point, it seems that they are. Now the catch is why and for how long? I don't have an answer for that. And maybe in their mind, they don't have to because the United States is going to get involved. Hell, for all I know, they told the US, if you don't get involved, we're going to use a nuke. Who knows? But let's be very clear. This is US policy. This is what the United States wants. Israel is nothing without the US. They're nothing. They're peat moss. They're goldfish. They are irrelevant. A country of 8 million uninteresting people who have no power at all without the US assistance. I don't doubt that Israel has the capability of murdering kids. They are prolific at it. I don't doubt that they can't burn kids alive. They are prolific at it. Oh man, if you had a sport of burning kids alive, Israel will be knocking that shit out the park. Shooting kids who are throwing rocks. Again, prolific. They are fantastic at it. They excel at it. They excel at it like the Chinese excel in engineering. Fighting a proper war. Oh, that is different. That is different. And you can see it in them hiding in bomb shelters, freaking out, losing patience, not necessarily handling a bombardment well, as if they expected for hell to never come after them, and that they can act with impunity. And they finally met a real man. And you have an Iranian fist, a Muslim fist, giving God's justice, with the rest of the world sitting back. Bravo! Bravo! Yeah, it's just true. You may have the white world backing you because, you're effectively a colony of that world. But the rest of the world, 80%, 85%, looks at you with scorn and malice, not because they hate who you are. It's because of what you have done as a country. You're a fascist regime that has decided to destroy another group of people that you are occupying. And you don't care, to make it even worse. So you can imagine that the rest of the world looks at you as the monsters that you are. And from their point of view, and from my point of view, this is comeuppance, the turn of the worm. You've pushed the envelope too far. You've believed in your own myth of exceptionalism too much. And you've run into reality asserting itself. And so, yes, the rest of the world looks at this, and I would imagine they think of it in the same way that I do, with applause. Thank you, Iran, for standing up for civilization. Thank you, Iran, for making the sacrifice. It's unfortunate that these other weak Arab governments didn't have the balls to do it because they're so captured by the United States that they effectively can't do shit without the US permission. Thank you, Iran, for being a sole actor and standing up for justice in the way that the Soviets stood up and destroyed the Nazis. Thank you for that. The rest of the world owes you a debt of gratitude. Now, the catch becomes, now what happens? What is the additional sacrifice that Iran is going to have to pay for being the sole factor in standing up against monsters? They're monsters at their gates. I keep saying it's true. It's not just Israelis. Israelis are just a proxy for the United States. The US are just as sociopathic as the Israelis. And even in the game plan that they're coming up with, they're going to just murder civilians with the idea that it creates chaos. They may hit a military installation here or there, but as I told you, the nuclear power thing has nothing to do with it. They want to destroy the country. Even in that scheme that Donald Trump is coming up with, the goal is to destroy the country. The nuclear part is just, it's a bug. It's not a feature. The feature is the destruction of the Iranian government. Never forget that. The media is going to tell you something completely different. They're going to act as if we're love and light. It's just about a missile and blah, blah, blah. It's not true. Every bit as much as Iraq, weapons of mass destruction, was nonsense. Let's keep going. But I can't answer that. I don't have an answer for that. Jamal, why is this so tiny? What is going on with this? What is going on with this? Okay. Jamal, the Iranian president, Ahmadinejad, survives an assassination attempt by two gunmen on June 15th via Azerbaijan News. Wow. Look, Israel has no issue murdering leadership. And look, I'm an American, so my point of view is governed by a country. My point of view is that they should have knocked those ships out of the water before they got even close and not allowed the buildup of military force off their shores. But again, they're not a superpower in the way that the US is, so we have a different point of view in the way that we deal with the rest of the world, or for that matter, even Russia. My point of view is that they should have bombed the Knesset. Again, Iran's not functioning that way. The reason I say they should have bombed the Knesset because Israel has no issue with going after leadership in Tehran. My point of view is that there should be a balance in regards to, if you decide to make this fair game, then we have every right to make it fair game. And if we have the ability to do it better, then don't bitch to us about it, since you're the one that made it fair game. We're using the rules that you use in Gaza. Those are our rules. Full stop. But Iran has been better people than me. So they have not taken that tact, and they have been very strategic in their game plan. Meaning, if you notice, what they've done is they've gone after institutions of state, things that allow the country to function. The country already has a damaged economy, and they're bombing the financial district, taking around $300 billion off of the market. On top of that, they went after oil and gas. So the ability for Israel to even fuel itself as a country was damaged significantly. It was diminished. They're using the psychological warfare where there's no idea when bombs are coming. So many of these people are just staying in bomb shelters constantly, or you can see them running to bomb shelters. Many of them are leaving, in which case you get Benjamin Netanyahu that says, wait, you can't leave. We're not allowing you to leave. The reason is because if 2 million people flee the country and go back to their actual countries, then what you're going to get is the death of Israel. He knows it. So what Iran is doing is effectively going after institutions of state to diminish the capability of Israel to be Israel. What is Israel if it's no longer a safe home for quote unquote Jews? It's a failed state. That's what it is. He knows it. So he needs those human shields to remain exactly where they are, which is why they build in their hospitals. Every accusation is a confession. Every accusation is a confession. That is amazing. I didn't know that Ahmadinejad was attacked. Do you really think Americans will ever make amends with who? Make amends with who? With Iran? I mean, we've never had amends with Iran. I mean, maybe when they had the Shah in, but we put the Shah in as a brutal dictator. This was about control, right? So how can you make amends with a government that you fundamentally can't trust, is fundamentally dishonest, and don't see you as equals? How do you do that? How do you do that? Super sticker. Oh, thank you. Who is this? Pendulumonium. Thank you for that. Let's see. Diane Sylvain. It says, on the Duran today, I heard Putin had a long phone call with Xi Jinping. Yes, they did. They had a talk. Mostly about Iran. Yes, they did. Too long to summarize, but obviously they're cool. They're coordinating around helping. Yes, they are. They have to. They have to. Like, that's what I'm saying. China is taking ships into the region. China has been sending cargo planes day in and day out. You can imagine that Iran is probably going to have an infinite supply of missiles, A, because they have a ton, and B, because China is probably going to be funding them with what they need, either to build those missiles or the missiles in and of themselves. They will be supported. They will be supported. The question becomes, how does that support deal with empire going after them, with this notion of trying to smash the state, with the expressed interest in smashing the state? What does that look like? And does that support escalate? And what does it mean when that support escalates? I don't know. I just don't have an answer for it. Raphael, Jesus Christ. Oh man, I'll just go with oh man. It says, so now we know Israel cannot fight. Wow. Well, again, they can fight. They can beat the shit out of babies. they can knock the fuck out of a kid who's throwing a rock. Oh man, they can beat the shit out of them. They look real strong when they're shooting a child, right? when they're shooting a woman in the back, when they're, bombing a camp. Oh, I would imagine they think very highly of themselves when they do that. Look at how elegant we are. Look at how God chose us to do this as we bomb this village of civilians that are entirely defenseless. Yeah, they can be really fucking strong doing that. So I don't doubt their capability of being able to murder people. A war is different. A man hitting you in the face with passionate rage and anger is different than you just killing people from the sky, shooting people with your guns that are fundamentally defenseless. Those are very different things. They can do one. They can do one very well. Takes a certain level of sociopathy, a bunch of psychopaths, a huge amount of hatred, dehumanization to be able to do that. Congratulations, they can do that. A war is different. A war is different. So I'm just being specific. Arnold Lewis, the Soviets save India without a treaty. Let's see if Russia can repeat. Oh, but Russia's not the Soviet Union. Russia's not the Soviet Union, right? Soviet Union was what, 30 countries, 20 countries wedged together? Russia is much smaller. It may be the beating heart of the Soviet Union, but it's not the Soviet Union. And let's be clear, Russia is a superpower, but it's not. You must understand, the United States builds its military to project power across the globe. So when it's built ships, planes, and everything else, our military doctrine is to be able to fight multiple wars at once on different parts of the globe, 2 medium-sized wars, if I remember correctly. So our doctrine is to not fight at home. But other countries don't really do that. Like, meaning other countries aren't spending $1 trillion so they can fight wars abroad. Then in the modern era, because we've gotten to the point where, let's put it on a numerical scale. Let's say that the moment you get to level 10, you can end the world. And whatever level 10 means, just your ability of power as a country. When you get to 10, you can end the world if you need to. What happens, though, when 2 countries are at level 10? So any fight between us ends the world. And we know any fight between us ends the world. We know it. We may even jockey for position using the fact that we can end the world in regards to us trying to gain some leverage. Fuck with us, we'll end the world. You need to back down. We may even do that, right? But when you get to that point, you don't want to fight a war directly because you can't win it. So I can't fight you directly because you have the capacity to destroy me, like I have the capacity to destroy you. So what do? In the modern era, you use proxies. And in human logic, you know that all things being equal, people don't want to destroy the world. You want to be able to win. But if you get to the point of destroying the world, then you lose. And you know the other person believes it also. So you're functioning under a similar playbook. So if I can use a proxy, then they can't justify escalating absurdly and ridiculously and attacking me, even if they know I am pushing that proxy. So Russia knows that the US is behind Ukraine. They know it. They know we knocked over the government. They know, we didn't give a shit about the Minsk agreements. They know that the CIA was ensconced in Ukraine. They know all of this stuff. But it's hard to justify attacking the United States when you're fighting your proxy. It's proxy. So under the rule book that we've just agreed upon, and nobody wrote it down, it's just human logic that everybody seems to agree upon because I don't want to end the world. I don't want to start a war. I need to deal with the proxy, not the component of the proxy. So yes, I know Germany is giving weapons. I know Britain is giving weapons, but I don't really want to attack Germany and Britain. I have to deal with the proxy, even if they on my fucking nerves, I have to deal with the proxy. Now, that's subjective. That doesn't have to be the logic. That doesn't have to be the logic. Russia could have very well said, if one missile hits us, we are bombing Berlin. If one missile hits us from Storm Shadow, we are bombing the UK. We're bombing France. A certain type of crazy could do that and say that. And the risk would be all right, are you going to risk ending the world in order to bomb Russia? That will be an interesting question, right? Especially if they full well believe that there's a certain crazy in that person to do that. And maybe it's not crazy at all. As I said, the rule book is subjective. It's just what they agree upon because they don't want to ultimately create a process where they're in a standoff that could possibly end the world and neither side can back down from it. So Israel is their proxy. And, Donald Trump, my point is, Russia is not built in the way that America is built to fight these wars on multiple continents in that way. They're built rationally to defend Russia. We have a military capability to defend our interests. And more to the point, we are better at it than anybody else in the world. We will fuck you up if you come after us. Ukraine is learning that the hard way. We don't need to be flashy. We're going to use artillery. We're going to use air power in order to knock down stuff that's coming our way. We have been killing and dying for 3 years. We have a 1 million-man military that it can eat NATO alive if we need to. But we do not need to go to foreign shores to fight wars. We do that. So as Americans, when we are thinking about, hey, is Russia going to get involved? Is China going to get involved? Their militaries aren't built for that. That's the point that I'm trying to make. That is not the way they function. Can they help? Yes. Will they maybe get involved? Maybe. Depends on how they see Iranian interests. Same thing with China. Depends on how they see Iran as in their interests for the long-term strategic planning. So, are you going to see a little green man in Iran? I don't know. On some level, they may depend on whether or not the U.S. sends troops into Iran, right? I don't know. A lot of this stuff is going to depend on what the U.S. does, how it does it, and how Iran deals with it. I have to say, though, it is insane to me that they didn't accept the air defense. It really is. It's just mind-blowing to me that they didn't accept the air defense. So I guess my point is, to answer your question straight, I don't. Look, Russia is obviously getting more vocal about this idea of toppling the government as being off limits, and even using the term unpredictable makes the point of, you don't know how we're going to take this. Don't do this. So, as I keep pointing out, this is very dangerous, what Trump is doing. He's going in unpredictable territory, and he's doing it as if, there's not going to be any consequences for it. I think there will be consequences. Frank Friel, Jamal, what do you think of Donald Trump pausing for 2 weeks before making a decision to officially intervene? I think, so there are 3 thoughts of what this could be. This breaks down into lines of thought based on just the logic of the situation. All 3 end up in the same position. So on some level, this goes into what is in his mind. It is very possible that Donald Trump was told Israel can handle it. He might have been told that. Give them all the weapons, the materials, give them everything that they need. Iran, the Ayatollahs hate it. People will rise up. We have internal hijinks that we can play using Mossad in order to create all sorts of chaos in the government itself. We're going to have drones internally. We're going to attack them internally and externally. Israel can do it. He might have been told that. You have a man who's not very bright, and he hears that and says, hey, that's a good idea. So we can now pretend as if we don't have any fingerprints on it. So Rubio puts out a statement. They pretend as if there's a rift between Trump and Netanyahu. They do it for weeks. The media runs it uncritically as if it's real. My humble channel pointed out it was bullshit. Just saying. And they go through with the plan. And in the very beginning, in their minds, we're going to do a decapitation strike. We're going to kill the scientists. We're going to kill the generals. We're going to do all of this stuff right off the bat. We're going to cripple them. We're going to take down their air defense. We're going to hit them with drones. We're going to do all of this stuff all at once. In the shock campaign to paralyze the state and to effectively overthrow the state. We're going to have that goofball acting as if he's the king come out giving statements in order to generate support. We're going to do all of this stuff. And it's going to be fantastic. And we're going to be able to knock over the government. And Trump is like looking at the coloring book saying, hey, That's a good idea. And they initiate it. Rubio comes out with a statement. We didn't know anything about this. And then the principal, who is supposed to be creating plausible deniability, comes out and just releases it. Well, for one, the two things. Israel comes out immediately and says the United States was intimately involved. Effectively, you're not distancing yourself from us on this. Fuck that. You were with us on this. I don't care what you say. You're with us. We're telling the world you're with us. Trump comes out, chest thumps. Well, we told you you had 2 months, dragging your feet, et cetera, popping off like a peacock. So it is possible that they thought we can take them down in one swoop. Shock and awe. I mean, it's a country of 8 million people. It's not like you can have this kind of long attrition warfare, right? So you have to, it has to be quick, it has to be blunt. The second idea is that we're going to sacrifice Israelis in order to create a casus belli for us to get into the war to fight for our colony, which meant that we're going to allow you to attack. We know you're not going to take them down. We know that they're going to hit you very hard and you people are going to die. But ultimately, we are going to get involved because we want this war anyway. And so we have now created a justification for the war by allowing this to play out. That's the other thought. It could be either one of those things. Both of those things end up being the same thing. The other idea is what was in Trump's mind. I don't think it matters. All things being equal, even if Trump thought to himself, I don't really want a war, but I'm put myself in a box, so I kind of have to go through with it. I have no idea. From my point of view, this is a war that the United States had wanted. It's not about the president. The U.S. wanted this war. The U.S. has wanted this war for a very long time. And decapitating Syria, decapitating Lebanon, decapitating Hamas, et cetera, has allowed them the capability of going after Iran. If they needed Israelis to die to create a pretext to do it, that's fair game. That's fair game. These people are sociopaths. In their mind, creating a greater Israel goes through Iran, every bit as much as Ukraine getting into NATO goes through Russia. So whichever one it is, whether those people were sacrificed in order to create a pretext to get involved, or whether they thought Israel was going to be able to take it down, and Trump is effectively letting it play out and see what happens, it doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, Larry Johnson is pointing out that Trump is being lied to, that Iran is weak, that they're running out of missiles, and that the U.S. can effectively overthrow the government with some kind of air campaign. Okay, let's see if that works. Let's see if it works. Guess we're going to find out if it works. But if you're asking me, I suppose in his mind, getting involved into a military conflict that is going to be something like another Iraq war is a heavy choice, and you have to get your ducks in a row. And so if you've noticed, they were moving people off military bases that they thought were in range of Iran's missiles. They were putting a huge amount of artillery in the region, a lot of airplanes and for refueling. They were doing all of that stuff, meaning they lining up their military over the time frame of this conflict with Iran and Israel. And at the point where they get their forces in position, they will strike. So if you're asking me why are they taking so long, part of it is probably they want to get their military in alignment before they can do it. They want to get people out of Dodge before they can do it. Yeah, this is them organizing their forces. With Donald Trump pausing for 2 weeks before making an official decision. Yeah, right. This next one, super sticker. Thank you. Amel Gilo, shout out to you. Lewis, thank you for your honesty. Garland sent you. Garland sent you? What do you mean? I don't understand that one. Garland didn't send me anywhere. This is my show. I built this. That's my man. Love him to death. He's fucking fantastic. Oh, you mean you found me from Garland's show? Yeah, Garland's awesome. He's the one that got me the radio job. Garland will have my allegiance for the rest of my life. I don't care what happens. I don't care if he never talks to me again. He would have my allegiance for the rest of my life. He's cool people. He's a good guy. Let's keep going. Marcus Young, Morpheus Cage, love your work. If the U.S. enters, how confident are you? China enters directly also. I am not confident China enters. China seems to be averse to war and conflict in this way. I don't know. I don't know. I know analysts are supposed to have all the answers, but I have no idea. There are questions around, there's so many questions around this stuff. What is Iran capability? Will Iran take down US carriers? They have the power to do it. Will they do it? Will they think to themselves, if we take down a carrier, the US is going to get more involved? I don't know. Will they hit US bases? Will they shut down the Strait of Hormuz? Will they intensify strikes on Israel? How far is the US is going to get involved? Will the US, well, if it's going to be Seymour Hersh's take, are they going to put troops on the ground? There's a question. How long is the buildup going to take for them to do that? Is it just going to be an air campaign with the thought of being to try to overthrow the government of Iran? Does Iran have air defense that we are unaware of, that they're effectively keeping their powder dry for what they consider to be the main war with the United States? All of these are questions. What do they have in their arsenal that could potentially strike whatever is coming over their shores to come after them? Can they create enough pain in the US, despite the injury to themselves, that creates a crisis in the US when these people start coming back in body bags? I don't have the answer to any of these questions. Does Russia and China look at Iran as a vital interest? Ukraine was a vital interest because Ukraine was a point in which they were invaded multiple times. So the notion that the country being in NATO is off the table. For them, that is a vital interest. We are going to secure that country because a country we've been invaded multiple times through this 30 million people in one, 10 million in the other, not to mention Napoleonic Wars. This is unacceptable to us. So they were willing to do it in regards to Ukraine because Ukraine was a direct and vital interest. China may be willing to do it with Taiwan, but let's be very honest. China is going to be put in a very similar position that Russia was put in with Ukraine. Do you get involved or do you allow it to be a US client? And the longer it goes on with the United States salami slicing, the one China policy, well, obviously there's going to be one of those slices that is going to be a slice too far. And what does China do? Are they going to remain military adverse and allow it to go to the US? They keep saying no, but you have US troops on Taiwan Island now, as we speak. You have the US giving them weapons hand over fist as we speak. And so you can do these military exercises where you surround Taiwan. That's nice. That hasn't stopped the salami slicing, nor has that stopped the US from putting bases on Taiwan, nor has it stopped them from putting missile systems, weapons, etc. in Taiwan. So the objective is to drag China into something similar to Ukraine. Taiwan is part of China. Ukraine is not necessarily part of Russia. It depends on your thinking of it in regards to legal stuff. But does Iran meet that criteria? That is the question. Iran seemingly wanted to be unaligned. That has consequences, right? But it's obviously a vital piece of their strategic importance to them. The question is, what is that strategic importance and how far does it go? Like Russia said, they will reevaluate if the situation gets very hairy for Iran. That's where we are. So am I confident that China and Russia will get involved? I have no idea. I have no clue. I have no model for it. If they think it's of strategic importance, yes. If they think they can live without it, no. But I'm not sure. In my mind, see, it doesn't really matter what's in my mind on this. I look at this stuff like it's, from my point of view, there's a war happening. It's low level, but it's there. And the attacks on Iran, the attacks on Russia, all of that stuff, the attacks on Belt and Road, all of these things are part of it. And so from my point of view, whether you're dealing with the war now or whether you're dealing with it in 2 years, you're still dealing with it effectively now. Iran is an important piece for that. And these countries need to understand that. And they need to work together in tandem to push back on an empire that is doing everything in their power to destroy them. Doesn't seem to be where they are. China and Russia seems to be there, but Iran is not. So I don't know. As I told you, I think dark days are ahead. I really do. But when Russia says this is unpredictable, I don't think they're saying it for shits and giggles. I think they mean it in real terms. It's unpredictable. Next person, Raphael Oman. Israel reminds me of a movie Straight Out of Compton where Ice Cube was not there in front of the club. His friend got unalived. Ice was bad, not him. Straight Out of Compton. The movie Straight Out of Compton where Ice Cube was not there in front of the club. His friend got unalived. Ice was not bad. Wait a minute. Ice was bad, not him. Oh, I see what you mean. His friend was a good guy. And the guy, but that's just it, right? Like, when I was on Canadian Proper, some people took issue with me saying Iran did everything in their power to prevent a war. They did everything in their power to prevent a war. Look, you can take issue with their support for Hezbollah, Hamas, etc., Houthis, whatever. Those are resistance groups. And I get that the West looks at those people as being terrorists. The people in the region considers Israel a terrorist because it is effectively squatting and what it is doing to its neighbors and what it is doing to the people it is occupying. And people who are being occupied have a right to resist. And so if Iran is resisting and helping the resistance, that doesn't necessarily, by definition, make them wrong. It puts them on the opposite side of something that you disagree with. On the other front to that, when Iran is in negotiations and you attack them, okay, I'm going to say, yes, they were doing everything in their power to prevent a war. That was the entire point of the negotiations, right? So, you know, it's my point is these aren't bad actors, at least not in my mind. Russia was justified in going into Ukraine. And Iran has every right to defend itself to whatever degree necessary for preservation of the state. If they need to take down aircraft carriers, God bless them. If they need to knock those planes out the sky, God bless them. The more corpses they send back, the better chance they have of effectively damaging the Trump administration and its ability to proceed with this unjustified, unprovoked war of aggression, because that is what it is. We are not the good guys. We are not the good guys. We are long past being the good guys. We have sat there and watched weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and we're watching it play out one more time. And the press seems to not have a memory of an infant and not remember it. It's astonishing, right? Let's see. Lewis, can Russia restore the notion that the only winning move is not to play? How? How do you do that? How do you do that? Like, NATO expands. NATO takes one country and another and another, and then it gets to your border. And it's now taking Ukraine. It takes Finland, takes Sweden, and you are militarily surrounded. How do you not play that? How do you not play that? The objective of them is to topple your government and slice you up into tiny parts and take your resources. That's their objective. How do you not play that game? Here's the thing. There are some modes of thought that force other people to conform to the mode of thought. If you are playing and flying a kite, I can leave you to your devices. It doesn't matter. If you're coming at me with a knife, I have to respond to the fact that you're coming at me with a knife. Me being kumbaya doesn't matter. Me being love and light doesn't matter. You're coming at me with a knife. I'm saying, how do you abdicate yourself from that process? I don't know how you do that. You're forced, meaning it's not a choice. Your choices are forced. There's no way out that box. If the U.S. tries to take Taiwan, China could say, well, we're not going to get involved. Okay, but you're going to lose Taiwan. If Russia says, we're not going to respond to the fact that you're taking Ukraine, okay, you're going to have a NATO country on your border full of Nazis that hate your guts, that are most likely going to invade you at some point. How do you do that? You're not given a choice not to play, is my point. 3D57G, Jesus. Can you comment on how action in Iran and Ukraine will affect the domestic situation in the United States and the possibility of a second civil war? I'm skeptical about the civil war thing. I know people talk about it. Nobody gave a shit about Ukraine in the US. Like, if you noticed it, they looked at it and they put out massive amounts of propaganda as if Ukraine was the one that was fighting the Russians. Ukraine was a civil war that the Russians got involved in. Let's not get that twisted. Just like the US got involved in. The fact is, Russia got in direct because it was on the border. But if you've noticed, you had a bunch of liberals who will give lip service to, we're going to stand with Ukraine because Joe Biden was their president and they're in a cult. They knew nothing about the situation. They knew none of the mechanics of it. And they were virtue signaling every bit as much as they were virtue signaling with Black Lives Matter. My point is, they weren't out there protesting about Ukraine in the least. As the buildup was taking place with a potential attack on Iran, what were they doing? They were protesting no kings and immigration. The fact that your country is pivoting in order to attack another country and put it in a similar situation as Iraq. And what they were protesting is Donald Trump has a military parade. Okay. Like, this shit is ridiculous, right? No kings. You've had an imperial president for decades. For decades. Obama had a kill list. George Bush literally invaded another country on the premise of a lie. And at no point were there consequences for George Bush. He was out there finger painting. I hope you get my point. The notion that they're now bitching about no kings because Donald Trump is having a military parade. We spend nearly $1 trillion a year on military. That is a military parade. That shit by itself is a military parade. We don't need to show a hardware to the world. The rest of the world knows we spend $1 trillion on a military. What perspective does that get when you spend 9 times more than any other country? Your parade of no kings is a little too late. The budget in and of itself is a parade. So, like, if they get into a war in Iran, will the public respond? Who knows? The American public is the most anesthetized, play their Xbox, have sex with their wives, do their work. That's pretty much it. College campuses may explode, especially considering it's Israel, and they're going to feel some kind of way about it being Israel. But if you ask the American public, should Iran have a nuclear weapon? They get dicey about it. Oh, we don't think they should have a nuclear weapon. Missing the fact that Israel has nukes. So, if you ask the American public to find Iran on the map, they couldn't do it. I don't think they could. And would they really go out and protest if Donald Trump decides to have another war with Iran? You will get some. Would it be significant enough for a second civil war? I'm highly doubtful. I'm very doubtful. I'm just highly doubtful. Maybe after a while, maybe if body bags start coming back, if you start having coffins of American soldiers coming back by the thousands, maybe. But keep in mind, only 1% or 2% of this country is in the military. And so you have the president's men. It's not like we have a draft. The people who are in the military chose to be in the military. They chose to be killers. So, there's no, I don't know if civil war, no. If people start coming back in body bags, anger at Trump, yes. Destabilizing and destroying his administration, yes. Civil war, I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I could be wrong, but I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Luis, can Russia restore the nation that only winning moves not to play? Okay, I think I answered that one. The answer is no. You didn't tell me I had to work this evening. Hello and thank you. What do you mean you had to work? Oh, right. Because my mom says she works the crowd. Hey, Jamal, Seymour Hersh, Weekend Strike. Yeah, I went over that. Game Boys. Yeah, I went over that. I discussed what Seymour Hersh was saying. I hit that here earlier in the video. This was a long video, and I went through several points about what's been taking place news-wise. But yeah, Seymour Hersh is talking about a strike to destroy the state. Destroy the state in and of itself. So as I kept telling you, that's not a bug, that's a feature. That was the point, that was the goal. And they believe that air raids or airstrikes will be enough to dismantle the state of Iran, where they want to either install their own puppet, good luck with that, or just smash the state to something like Syria or Lebanon or something to that effect. Again, good luck with that. I showed the Russian response to it. China has ships in the region, most likely given intel, and Russia and China are probably going to help them to the degree that Iran wants their help, especially if the state gets wobbly. Russia has said, you are treading unpredictable waters. Will Trump hear that? I don't know if he hears and understands subtlety, but the subtlety has consequences, significance to it. As I pointed out, Russia has 200 nuclear scientists at the power plants. They could have taken those people out. They did not take those people out. So you have to understand or question, hey, why didn't they remove their people if they're in the middle of a war, right? Isn't that interesting? So these are things that are taking place on the ground. These things have significance. The catch is, what is the significance of them doing that? Are those people a tripwire? Is that Russia's gateway into Iran in order to try to put a still on Israeli aggression towards these power plants? Will Israel be stilled by that if it thinks that it has a blank check from the United States? This is beginning to look like the First World War, right? You have a blank check from the Soviet or from Russia, from the standpoint of Serbia. Austria-Hungary get a blank check from Germany. We're off to the races. So we'll see. We will see. But yes, I covered the Seymour Hersh article. Tom Fitzpatrick, what do you think of the possibility that there's a hidden drone station similar to the drones that were used in Russia and Iran being in the United States? But that's just it, though. We were the ones that were using those drones. Like, this was either MI6 or CIA. If you notice, it was the same campaign in Iran that was taking place there. I don't know if they have drones like that in the US. They're effective, though, ain't it? You drive the truck to a certain location, drones come out the truck, blowing up anything in sight. I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't get the sense that the war comes to our shores right off the bat. This seems to be empire fighting abroad. Will it come to our shores at some point? Yeah, but at the point where it comes to our shores, all hell breaks loose. Are there terror cells in the United States that could do something like that? Who knows? Maybe. I have no idea. We will find out when we push the envelope. So, I don't know. Tom Fitzpatrick, I would prefer not to find out in general. All right, this video has gone exceedingly long. Exceedingly long. I want to thank all of you for your assistance on this. I want to thank all of you for your kind words and comments. From my point of view, we are at war. And it is my job to try to give an honest take on what's happening on the ground, to give an honest take on analysis in regards to what I think is going to take place, even if the answer is, I don't know. I mean, I don't know is honest. There's nothing wrong with saying it. And on some level, to be the integrity in this, meaning I'm going to be transparent. If it's something that's good, you're probably going to see me celebrate. For something that's bad, I guess I'm going to grieve with you in it. For right now, we get to celebrate Israel getting decimated, and we get to enjoy it. For right now. What happens over the weekend may be different. The hell to come after that may be different. If there's a standoff between nuclear powers, it may be different. Meaning, enjoy now. Enjoy your coffee now. Because we're going into very unpredictable waters. We will be going through those unpredictable waters together, but we will be going through unpredictable waters. So I'll end it on that. I want to thank all of you for your support. The show has been doing very well. Ironically, I tend to cover wars well. I think it's because it focuses the mind. It makes you more interested in what you're talking about. Like, it's one thing if nothing's happening, you're just like, okay, I'm doing a show and I'm trying to find something to do a show about. It's another thing when your country is effectively going to war and you defining yourself as a patriot, saying this is fucking outrageous. And not just outrageous, the country is effectively betraying the citizens of that country at the behest of a foreign agent. And also, on some level, to point out stuff that the media misses. Yes, Israel is doing strikes and hitting stuff, but it's very clear at this point that the superiority in this is Iran. And if they can keep this up for weeks, there's no way the Israeli state can tolerate this. There's a country of 80 million, 90 million people versus a country of 8. And so if you, let's say, have equal exchange between the two, can the country of 8 really survive that? Whereas the country of 80 million can absorb it in a way that the 8 million people can't. They can't get into a war of attrition. That's why all of that shit happened at once when they first attacked. It has to be a quick jolt. It has to be this quick, brutal thing in order to be effective. Well, it wasn't effective. You failed. You failed on a massive fucking level. And you have created a righteous anger and indignation with a Muslim fist, or representing the dignity of Muslims all across the world, as it pounds you into the ground day after day after day after day. That's where we are. I'm going to end this. I'm going to say like. I'm going to say share. I'm going to say subscribe. I'm sorry, just reading the chats. Big Tom, good night, Jamal. Well, it's morning here, Big Tom. It's what? It's 8 in the morning? 9 in the morning. Shit, I've been doing this thing for that long. We have a new member. Chrissy's. Welcome to the family, Chris. Welcome to the family. Wolfgang, Felix, they know nothing else. Well, they know a goddamn Muslim fist pounding their ass to the ground. Just got here. I see we don't have Dapper Jamal today. No, because this is early morning. This is not the morning show. It's Thomas, at night in the States. Street Fighter Jamal, yeah, pretty much. Well, basically a hard-ass Jamal. Look, man, no new wars was a lie. Yes, D-Spirit, no new wars was a lie. We voted for Trump because he had a track record of getting things done. He lied. All of us, yep, he lied. Well, I didn't support him. I didn't vote for his ass. I thought lying, liars lie. Lying, liars lie. Let's see. Navy vet. They did, and you know what? The folks that were in the military that was sent out to LA, they were all sleeping on the floor in warehouses. They hate Trump. You know what's wild, man? People sign up for the military, I would say, for 2 reasons. 1, they want to defend their country. 2, they need the money. 3, it could be a little bit of both. There's a nobility in it, in defending your country, right? If there are monsters at the gates, I will fight and die to defend the state, because that is the first priority of state. The military is the beating heart of a country. There is a philosophical responsibility that is built into that pill. Yes, I am signing up to potentially give my life to defend my country. But that's not arbitrary. It's not a one-way relationship. In the same way that the person is taking an oath to do that, there's an underlying thought that they will not be squandered and that they will be used responsibly, that their lives won't be given wastefully, that there will be purpose in it, that it is somebody at their gates, that this is not, I'm using your life to go and fight for another country's nonsense, bigoted, racist war. It's not that. That's a betrayal to the military. Meaning all of those people who are being sent over there to attack are being betrayed by the very act of giving them that order to do that. I hope you understand what I'm saying. There's a responsibility here that is being fundamentally undercut and gutted by a president that has effectively betrayed his own country for a client state. And yes, I know that I say that the United States is effectively doing this, but I'm still saying it is a betrayal of what those people joined the military for. You are enacting a regime change war where you're going to murder, and yes, I'm using the term murder because that's what it is. You are trying to murder a large number of people to create chaos in that government. This is after we destroyed Libya. This is after we destroyed Syria. Think of the consequences of that. No, Europe doesn't give a shit about the consequences of it. The US doesn't give a shit about the consequences of it. When Obama was out there drone bombing people where 90, 80% of the people were civilians, do you think they gave a shit about the fact that they were civilians? No. In their mind, chaos is good for business. That chaos is over there. At some point, this is going to come back together, and it'll be a state that we may control. So it is better to destroy it. Let it squander. Let those people die. Let those people be slowed into slavery like they were doing in Libya. That's perfectly okay. Or in Iraq, or in Syria, where you had right now a terrorist, a head chopper for ISIS that Donald Trump was shaking his hands. We were fighting them at one point, supposedly, but come to find out, they were our proxies. He's out there chopping heads, hands full of blood, and Donald Trump is shaking it. That's a good man. Good looking guy. Sharp beard. Strong history. Strong past. They don't care that they're murdering Alawites. They don't care that they're murdering Christians. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. We watch them murder hundreds of thousands of people in Gaza and put them through some of the most hellish environments that people could be put through. And our government paid for it. And I don't mean pay for it in the sense of something happened. I mean pay for it in the sense of here are tax dollars to do that. What does it mean to have a country that is willing to do those things? That's an honest question. Your mainstream media would never ask that question. Your mainstream media goes with this notion that America is just love and light. We always fight for the best. We may make mistakes here or there. But the problem in that logic is that it's not about making mistakes. These are things that we do intentionally for the purpose of empire that they gloss over like they're in Hunger Games or something. It's weird. It's dishonest on its face. So, the honest truth is not what you think, it's what you do, right? And if you are doing that, creating chaos, killings, murders, you're destroying states, knowing full well the consequences of destroying those states. You're putting in dictators. You're paying for kill squads, like in South America. You're paying Nazis to go and stick it to the Russians. You're paying another group of Nazis that call themselves Zionists to go stick it to the Iranians. What are you when you act that way? And how do you even come with any notion that you're the good guy? You are not. You're not. You're a group of evil sociopaths. And at some point, the empire needs to collapse. And maybe the fact that they're betting it on Iran is the thing that brings it down. What I want is a government that pays attention to the needs of the population, as opposed to spending $36 trillion. And we don't have high-speed rail. We don't have universal health care. Our bridges are collapsing. Oligarchs that, for whatever particular reason, they don't like to call them oligarchs in the United States, they're oligarchs, are able to suck up all of the money by Congress. Like, these are not things that are indicative of a functional country. And yet, we will still go looking for wars abroad. I'm saying that is fucking outrageous. And at some point, that shit needs to stop. But it seems like the only thing that's going to stop it is for it to fail miserably. We are seeing canaries in the coal mine with this trade war with China that didn't work, the war with Russia that didn't work. And now we are plowing ahead into another war against Ukraine. My fervent hope, my fervent prayer is that we lose monstrously. That's what I want. There is no way to get rid of these sociopaths that is in our government. And look, as I keep telling you, many people get me wrong. They're like, why do you hate your country? I don't hate my country at all. I love my country. My entire framing of the world is built for my country. I hate these sociopaths that have taken it over and that have decided to contort, let's say, resources for evil things. That's what I hate. Kabutos, Captain D's, family, smoking a blunt with my cousin when he's taking me to the airport. I love my country. I don't like what sociopaths have done to it. I don't like this notion of failing in basic responsibilities of government, like healthcare, education, industry, things that would effectively build and grow a state because you're investing in the population of that state. Those are things that are necessary for a country to function. And what do we get? We get Donald Trump blocking Asian students, by the way, many of which are going to be engineers, many of which coming from China that are going to be to the betterment of this country, creating a brain drain out of this country. The nurses, the doctors, all of these people are effectively needed because if anybody has had to deal with the medical industry, you would notice that many of those people are foreigners. Now you could say, well, we're going to get rid of them and we're going to hire American doctors. It's not that all things being equal, you wouldn't hire American doctors. They just aren't there. They just aren't there. I'm going to end this. I'm sorry. I'm bitching at this point. I'm ranting. It's frustrating to me. That's all. We are killing people around the globe, and we're doing it prolifically. And the media acts as if see no evil, hear no evil. Oh, what does this person have to say? And oh, look at this drama over there. And there's another shiny object that you can pay attention to. As opposed to, hey, Donald Trump is shaking hands with a terrorist. That's pretty astonishing. That guy used to belong to ISIS. And now Donald Trump is saying he's a good guy. Shaved his beard. Everything's great. How many heads did that guy chop? Maybe 20 or 30. It was a phase in his 20s. But he's grown out of chopping heads. Oh, okay. I guess everything's okay then, right? Like, this is what we get. Oh my God, Iran is going to get a bomb. We got to stop Iran from getting a bomb. Hey, Israel has bombs, right? Well, they say they don't, they don't acknowledge that. Yeah, I get that, but they do have them, right? How many countries have Iran invaded? Zero. How many countries have Israel invaded? They've invaded all their neighbors. They don't even have borders set in their constitution. Well, they don't have a constitution per se. They don't have borders set. They're a settler colonial state that is going to expand until they get to the point where they run into something where they can't expand into and they get a fist brought down upon them, which is what Iran is doing. Our media is fucking absurd, is my main point. And part of America being what it is now is because they are woefully informed on basic issues of state. And on some level, that has to be intentional. I used to say an American point of view. And I used to say that because it is so jaded and contorted that reality almost never gets through. The notion that we are going to pick a bitch about Russia invading Ukraine. When we tried to murder Castro, how many times? Well, the CIA had a plan to blow up a ship, either intentionally or purely through a virtual way, in order to create a pretext, in order to invade Castro. We fucking invaded Iraq. 1,000 miles off our shore. Like meaning, it's amazing to me that the media functions in the way it does. All right, I'm going to end this. I'm going to say like, I'm going to say share, I'm going to say subscribe, I'm going to cut the hell out of this video because my rant doesn't need to be a part of it. Oh, right here. Lewis, I mean, can Russia convince these knuckle draggers the only winning move is to not play? Dude, I think we're well past that. There's a line in the Three Body Problem book, I think it's Death Sin, where they are People are going to leave when I say this because they don't give a shit about the book, but whatever. Spoiler warning. In was it Deaths in Three Body and Dark Forest. So in the series, Remembrance, Earth's Past series by Cixin Liu. Fantastic series. One of the best books you can get. Especially if you get high off of reading stuff. Scientific triumphalism, I guess. The concepts are so mind-blowing that they leave you stunned. If that is the type of book you like, then you're going to love it. But Earth built up a massive military that is astonishing. Ships that can go 15% the speed of light. Ships with firepower that can level mountains. Thousands of them. And they were from all sorts of parts of the planet because they were dealing with Trisolarians that were coming 400 years into the future. And so they had to build up massive military in order to deal with what they considered to be a military force of aliens coming to get Earth. And so Earth was pretty enamored with itself. We're fucking awesome. Look at our ships. We can go 15% speed light. We can get fuel from stars. We can do all of this stuff. We are phenomenal. We're awesome. And one probe from the aliens come to Earth, or at the very least come into the thing. And the book writes this in very emancipatory terms. It's like representing the dignity and the power of man. That effectively mankind had been belittled because of the Trisolarians and the threat that they pose. And with all of these ships, thousands of them going out to meet this probe, because all of them wanted effectively press. They wanted to be seen with this. And they couldn't make a choice on who did it. So all of them went to do it because that's the way human beings think. This is a press opportunity. We believe that this is not even a weapon of war. We think this is going to be something that they're giving us because they want to make amends, because we obviously will fuck them up. And they were talking about how these ships speed up dignity of man. And the one probe flips out and destroys every last ship with the exception of like 6. And it's like a rock. It's like if somebody takes a rock and just bash into one after the next. Because of the way it was designed, the molecules of it were so close together that it was so compact that it didn't deform when it hit stuff. So it can go through Earth like a rock through butter. And it decimated the entire fleet. All right, fast forward to the other book. And they're dealing with this thing that's like a slip of paper. And as they're dealing with it, the guy is saying, like, they're putting their head through it, they're putting their hands through it. The thing is barely there. It's almost like not even entirely in our dimension. And as they're researching it, they got so accustomed to researching it that they didn't take it with the level of threat that you would think they would take something that is purely anomalous from an alien civilization. One of the scientists has a bad dream, wakes up from the bad dream, and in the dream, he's dealing with another scientist. The scientist is like, I believe that there was always one table that would never get touched. And he said, that is not the situation. Every table will get touched. And the guy comes out in a panic, and he's like, basically, we need to leave, or look, you need to take this more seriously. And the guy's like, what's wrong with you? And he points out to him, he says, weakness is not, I'm paraphrasing, but weakness is not a hedge against survival. Arrogance and hubris is. Effectively, you can be weak. You can be somewhat ignorant, meaning not know something. Those things are not antagonistic to survival. You can survive under those conditions. Hubris and arrogance will get you killed. That's a lot of wood to chop, I know. But there's a point behind it. Do you get the sense from the Trump administration that they are competent actors? Do you get the sense that they overestimate the military capability of the U.S.? Do you get the sense that they see the world clearly? That answers your question. So, Trump may accept that we got our ass kicked in Ukraine. But even under those terms, if you notice, he was still fucking around with the nuclear triad. They were still perfectly having this shadow war under the actual war that he was already fighting to try to entice Putin to accept the deal. And what happened? Not only did Russia look at that and say, this is outrageous, and we're now going to respond, and our approach is going to be unconditional surrender. We don't give a fuck what you do. Okay, did they get that right? Meaning, did the shadow campaign that Donald Trump was running entice Putin to accept the deal, the nonsense deal that they had on the table? No, they did not. So if they saw it clearly, they would have known under no circumstances is Russia going to accept you doing that. And that is not going to be something that they're going to say, oh, well, let's take the deal. It's going to harden their resolve. It's going to make them push further. They're going to say the U.S. is an untrustworthy actor. One of two things. Either Trump didn't know, or Trump knows and is a fucking liar. So on the first condition, Trump didn't know, which means he doesn't have control of his government. Trump did know, which means Trump is a liar. Okay, both of these things are not something that we can deal with. So the only thing we can deal with is unconditional surrender. We don't care about your sanctions. We don't care about anything else. We dominate the space. You don't have the balls to invade and intrude. Europe doesn't have the balls to invade and intrude because we will kill every last one. If they want to feed Europeans to a wood chipper, God bless them into Ukraine. That's their position. Meaning that what Trump didn't bring the Russians closer to him. It got them further away. But they believed in their minds that it would. I'm trying to use this as a comparison and contrast because I'm trying to show that they don't see the world clearly. They see it through a jaded American lens that is very foggy and that is an overinflated sense of self and self-worth with an exceptionalist, racist backing to it. And again, my rule is racist people don't see the world clearly. So if you're asking me, is it possible for Russia to pull them out of this? How do they do it? A strongly worded letter, do you think that would do it? A strongly worded speech, do you think that would do it? Or do you think they're not going to give a shit about a speech or a letter? How do they do it is the question. And if hard power is the only thing that they care about, what does that mean? Think about it for a moment. Think about it for yourself. What does it mean? If Russia makes the point of saying, hey, stop, we're not going to allow you to do this. And Trump is going to say, what? How are you going to stop us? I hope you get where I'm going with this. Do you get the sense that Trump is a man that is willing to back down and look weak? Typically, no. Do you think that they're going to have this idea that we have enough military power to affect events on the ground? Yes. The catch is that Israel, as their proxy, cannot do what Ukraine did in the Russian conflict. So America has to get directly involved in this. The question is whether or not Russia or China would get directly involved in this. And what does it mean if there's a standoff between nuclear powers? I think that's your question. And because anything else is not going to matter. China could say, we're not going to give you rare earth minerals. Russia can maybe escalate in Ukraine in a way that scares the shit out of Europe, that tries to pull the US back into it, meaning they may be able to do something in other spheres. They try to pull resources away in order to give Iran a little bit more breathing room. But what if that doesn't work? Then what? Do they just let Iran crash? So I don't know. I get the sense that hard power is the only thing they're going to care about. And if indeed that is thrown onto the table, then you have a nuclear standoff. Because this is not Ukraine. This is not the US allowing its proxy to get eaten alive. This is the United States itself getting involved into a conflict. And on some level, daring any other country to get involved. Because after all, the entire goal is to destroy Iran. So that is a very difficult question to answer. My answer is these knuckle draggers are not going to understand anything but force, or at the very least, the threat of force. If North Korea came out and said, if anybody nukes Iran, I will nuke that player, period, drops the mic and walks off the table, walks off the thing. Okay, what does it mean? Now Iran has a nuclear umbrella, but you have a whack job group of Zionists who may say, if we're going, everybody's going. Fuck it. They could say it. They got the nukes to do it. I hope you understand what I mean. This is exceedingly dangerous. You've allowed religious maniacs to get their hands on nuclear weapons, and a weak group at that. So it's not like they can even fight a proper war. In a proper war, they get themselves eaten alive, and then all of a sudden want to go to nukes. It puts me in the mind of, what is that kid that murdered that black kid? Where he comes out, the cops tell him to leave, in Florida, I believe. Trayvon Martin. He's out. He's go to the store. He's walking back home. And some weirdo is following him. The weirdo calls the cops. The cops said, go home. Leave it. He continues to follow him. He initiates a fight. But he's weak and a fat fuck and can't fight and gets his ass kicked. And because he's weak and a fat fuck and gets his ass kicked, what does he do? He pulls out a gun and shoots him. So the worst thing in the world is for weak people in this situation, or weak countries, to have nukes. Because the entire point of nukes is for the existence of the state. Meaning, at the end of the day, I can always pull out a nuke in order to destroy my enemy. But if you're weak, then you can imagine that you're going to have to go to that faster than something, let's say, like Russia, that can use military hard power and don't even need accountants dealing with nukes. Hell, they have weapon systems that even go before you even get to the nukes that are terrifying. One called Satan, one Oreshnik, etc. So, I guess I'm trying to impart how dangerous this is. We have whack jobs with nukes, and weak whack jobs with nukes that are getting their ass kicked right now, and they're getting the United States pulled into it. And if anybody else gets involved, because in a weird way, it's kind of like Ukraine, right? Russia takes the initiative and tells anybody else, don't fuck with us. Don't get involved. You're already involved, but don't put your troops in. Do not put your weapon systems in where you have to fire them. Do not do it. We will go bananas. We will target your countries. Don't test us. And for the longest time, they say, okay, we talk a lot of shit about Putin, but we don't want to cross that line because we think that he will be forced into action. So we want to get the U.S. involved. Now, why do they want to get the U.S. involved? Because in their minds, well, if the U.S. gets involved, that's a great power fight. And that Russia would never attack the United States if it was involved in Ukraine. That's a hell of a gamble, right? But this is the gamble that they're willing to make with the U.S. military getting involved. What does Trump say? Fuck that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. You're out of your fucking mind. Why does he say that? Because Trump doesn't want to potentially end the world for Ukraine. Meaning he gets that they want to backstop. They effectively want the U.S. to fight Russia. And what happens if we lose in that fight? What happens if we win in that fight and Russia resorts to nukes? Because if the integrity of the state is threatened, they will resort to nukes. Britain and France, in their minds, thinks to themselves, Russia would never attack them. That's a hell of a gamble there that you want Trump to hold it back for. But it's kind of very similar in this situation, right? It's one thing if Iran had a relationship militarily with Russia and China, where they would get involved if that was the case. They don't. They're on their own. So the U.S. comes in on behalf of Israel and effectively tells people the exact same thing. Don't get involved. In this case, though, you have something that is a vital interest. Ukraine was never a vital interest. Ukraine was always a luxury item. It's the gravy. It's not the meal. I don't need the gravy, especially if the meal is good. So in their case, they're like, we can give up Ukraine. That's not a big deal. We can fight to the last dead Ukrainian, but we're not going to end the world over it because we don't need it. It's something that we were using to try to stick it to the Russians. All things being equal, if Russia takes Ukraine, sad day for Europe, but we don't need it. It's something we just wanted. There's a difference in those things. Like they said, what is it? Don't confuse the mistress with the bride. It was always the mistress. But is Iran that way? And that's where your question goes to. How important is Iran to Russia and China's strategic interests? Does it rise to the level of Ukraine? Does it rise to the level of Taiwan? And if they're looking down the line at how important is this for us to keep this? What does it mean for us to lose access to oil, right? Russia's a shitload of it, but the fact that the US would effectively control it may be problematic. What does it mean for Israel to potentially control it, where they have this vital resource that they can now sell and be somewhat more self-sufficient? What does it mean that China doesn't get that resource? What does it mean that the US gets to now, on some level, control more so of that resource in a way that they couldn't necessarily do it before? All of those things are big fucking deals. And the catch is it big enough of a deal to potentially end the world? Because that's effectively what we're talking about. A big power standoff is something that they've tried to avoid. They've skirted around the edges of it, but at this point, you're not just at the edges of it, you may be going directly into it. You're attacking a country that is the strategic interests of Russia and China. And yes, at the very least, they're going to be given intelligence, assets, materials, all that. That is different, though. That would be like Ukraine, I guess. I guess it is similar to Ukraine in a way. Because in that situation, you would have Russia and China giving Iran resources to fight off empire. Whereas in Ukraine, you had all of those countries given resources to try to fight Russia. I think the difference is Israel is looking for fights, looking to start fights, and is effectively trying to provoke a war that it wants the US to fight on its behalf. So, I don't know, man. Like I said, I think dark days are ahead. I think, for one, if the US goes through with the bombing campaign that they're talking about, they will kill, murder a lot of people. They will. If they do that, we have no idea entirely on Iran's capability to respond in a way that is painful. And if Iran has weapon systems that we are unaware of, and those weapon systems have 3, 5, 6, 8 hypersonic missiles attacking carriers, those carriers are going to sink. And it's going to take 3,000 people with them in each carrier. Okay, that's a big fucking deal, right? Now, is Trump thinking about that? Who knows? Who knows? I have no idea. Does that stop the US from murdering a lot of people? No, it does not. It doesn't. You can murder those people, right? If Iran is able to hit the military bases, maybe those missiles fly higher than what they believe. Maybe they fly farther than what they believe. And maybe, depending upon the speed at which those missiles are going, there is no defense for those missiles. If that is true, how many Americans die and how many get sent back in body bags? That's an interesting question. I don't have the answer to this stuff. And I know that Trump probably is sitting with people who are making war plans, but, so what? They were doing war plans with Ukraine, right? They got it wrong. They were doing war plans with Yemen. They got it wrong. And now they're doing war plans with Iran without a clear knowledge of their capabilities. We'll see. We'll see. All right. I'm sorry that I can't answer this straight. That's the only way I can answer it. I don't believe if Trump knows as a flat fact that Russia is involved in a way that they are potentially going to bump heads, would that force a negotiation? Maybe. But U.S. policy has been to get rid of Iran. So I don't know. But if they were forced to confront what they consider to be, quote unquote, hard power. Now the catch is, how does Russia even get those troops there? I mean, they would have to have a buildup themselves, right? How long does it take their buildup versus the U.S. who's already in the area? So I don't know how this works in practice. How long would it take for Russia to get air defense? Who's going to control the air defense? Because you would have to learn how to use it. Like all of these things, especially now considering that the United States is already primed in the region. it may be the situation that the best thing that Russia and China can do for Iran is to ensure that it has money, resources, materials, oil, blah, 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 et cetera, so it can keep going and being effective. But again, that effectiveness is taking down U.S. ships, taking down U.S. airplanes, taking down taking Israel apart. And to not be, anybody on that ship is fair game. Anybody on those bases are fair game. Anybody in these quizzling governments, Saudi Arabia, UAE, these Johnny-come-latelys that you can't trust, they were opening their airspace and knocking down your drones. They're fair game. All of those people are fair game. So, how does Iran respond? It's a fucking huge question. Can Russia talk the U.S. down? Probably not. No. Probably not. I don't think a strongly worded letter is going to do it. All right, I'm going to end this. I hope that makes sense. I know that's a long way to go to try to I guess the answer to the question is no. I don't think they can talk them down short of having some leverage to do so. If they don't have leverage, thank you for your opinion. Thanks for your opinion, man. I accept your strongly worded letter. Thanks for that. Short of having some leverage in the process, I do think those 200 Russian troops are a tripwire. And they're there for a reason. And the reason shouldn't be understated. What happens if Israel kills those Russian troops because they bombed the nuclear station? What does Russia take? What's their point of view? Doesn't it matter? Wouldn't it be significant? Putin could have pulled them out. He chose not to. We have Russians there, the 200. Don't touch them. I know you want to bomb it, but don't touch them. Like, that's fascinating to me. If they're there for a reason. He's not doing it arbitrarily. He's putting those people's lives at risk, knowing that these people are whack jobs and lunatics. And it's very possible that is a casus belli for him to get involved, meaning we don't have a relationship with you, but if you murder our scientists, we now have a justifiable reason to get involved in this conflict. Now, the catch here is Russia's already still involved in a conflict with Ukraine. They may be rolling Ukraine up, but they're still in a conflict. Truth is, though, that Russia has built 2 militaries. So not only do they have the military fighting Ukraine, they have another military that's built up on the border of Finland and Sweden, and they have another one in reserve of like 300,000 men with new equipment. So power, they have it. Would they be able to get it to Iran? Who knows? Would they be willing to even go into a conflict like that? Who knows? Are they willing to get into this kind of nuclear standoff? Who knows? But I don't think anybody wants a nuclear standoff. That shit is unpredictable. So, yeah, dark days. These are going to be dark times. You guys have a fantastic evening. Thank you all for joining me. This show, I know, went long. It wasn't structured. It was just, the beginning of it was structured, but after the fact, we're just talking. I rarely get the chance to just talk to my audience, so I just kind of took this to do so. Let me see. They're censoring anything I use these words, China and Superman. What? Hey, Jamal, I love your work, man. Take care, brother. Oh, thank you, Nathan. Standing alone in my neighborhood in Calabasas, California. I don't know who, but some neighbors have called the police 3 times just because I fly a Palestinian flag on my balcony. Fuck those people. Fuck those people. Putin messages don't fuck with us. In a very understated way, right? In a very understated way. Once again, he could move those soldiers. He chose not to. He's leaving them there. And you have to ask, hey, that's weird. They're in a war zone. Why are you leaving them there? I'm leaving them there for the express reason that I don't want this place touched. And I don't think you have the balls to hit it with our troops there. Because our reaction to that may be something that you don't necessarily want. What happened when a Rottweiler attacks a Zionist chicken? What? Brian H, no problem. Adrian Ditton. Hello to everyone and live in the chat. Eli Bohr Day Benjamins. Brian H, sorry, I spelled it wrong. Fair enough. SK Rugel, what is this? Weizmann Institute estimates missile strike by Iran caused $300 and $540 million in damage. Wow, this excludes the heavy losses, the research destroyed, in the sample materials. So what he's talking about is this place. This was their MIT. This was their version of MIT. That looks like that. All the science up in smoke. Yep. Yep. That's how it happens. That's how it happens. That's some good coffee. That's some good coffee. Whew, that's some good coffee. Let's see. Jamal, what is this? Kolagminsky, finance Zelensky in Ukraine. Oh, Kolomorsky. Let's see. Adrian Dittman. Khamenei has been dead for years. You know nothing about Iran, and they expose just take hits and not retaliate. Yeah, I mean, look, there's some Zionists that have some stupid ideas about the world. We're God's chosen people, so we get to do whatever the fuck we want. As I keep pointing out, there's no God above. There's nothing that keeps you safe. We are all persistently vulnerable. And Israel is finding that out the hard way. They're finding it out the hard way. Oh my God. We got so used to burning kids alive that we thought we can do anything with impunity. And oh my God, you've blown up my institute. Oh my God, you've blown up our financial district. Oh my God, you've blown up Haifa. Oh my God, you've hit the IDF headquarters. Oh my God, you've hit our hospital. Oh my God, you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. God chose all right. God chose all right. And, you know, to steal something from Garland, because I think this is fucking hilarious. They chose the Samsonite option. They chose the Samsonite option. We got to get the fuck out of here. What happened? You don't want to stay in the promised land now? I thought it was promised to you. God didn't give it to you? Interesting. Interesting. If God gave it to you, I would imagine, you know, you'd be staying there for it. And yet, you're going back to your own home countries because they're your home countries and you were squatters on somebody else's land. That's some good coffee. That's some good coffee. Foster Dulles, yes. What is this? Lisa Hall. If the United States had a modicum of decency, or France, they would disable Dimona. Israel should blow this. I mean, Iran should blow this shit up. They should blow that shit up. Yes, I'm a hard ass on this. I'm a hard ass because of environmental factors. And, you know, I've lost my innocence. It's like a woman losing her flower. I've lost my innocence. Which means that when I look at this stuff, I think to myself, all right, if they're going after your nuclear reactor, you have to go after theirs. There has to be a parity. There has to be a parity. If there's a nuclear fallout in Israel, oh well. I can show you where they bombed a hospital directly. It wasn't a military target. There was no military base under the hospital. It's not like in Gaza where they, oh my God, you had a military base under the hospital, and there was none. They just bombed a hospital. They bombed schools. They're just killing civilians, bombing apartment buildings. Don't cry to me on this. Don't cry to me. I'm, you know, fucking man of steel on this. I have no feelings. Abel Malcolm, they're censoring all my comments about China. What the fuck are you saying about China? That's so bad it needs to be censored. I'm Francis Guy. Hi, Jamal. I love you lecturing on morals, ethics, and necessary for us to lose that war. And then, yes, there's irony about me lecturing on morals and ethics as I'm being hard ass about hospitals being bombed. Don't take this with a grain of salt. I'm a person. But yes, in a different environment, yes, we're the bad guys in this. I want us to be a city on a hill. I think we can be that shining city on the hill, but we can't be it this way. This is not drenched in blood. No, God, no. We are doing bad things. And I don't know a way to stop us from doing bad things short of us losing and reorganizing after that loss to whatever degree that loss means of an empire. It's just that I don't know another way out. That is not me hating on my country. I love my country. I just don't like what it is. There's a difference between your government and your country. Governments are the, it's like saying I hate the bus. Well, no, I don't hate the bus. I hate the fucking driver of that bus. There's a difference. The driver can be replaced. Ideologies can be changed. People can become better. If your environment allows you to be better, then your environment allows you to be better. Like, people always, I have no illusions about this notion that environment shapes behavior. If a plant requires what? Water, air, nutrients, sunlight, dirt, requires all that shit to grow. What happens if you don't have sunlight? Okay, well, that plant's gonna be fucked up. That's assuming it grows at all. What happens if there's no nutrients in the dirt? That plant is gonna be fucked up in some way. What happens if, it's frigid? That plant is, meaning, in order to make a decent person, you need an environment every bit as much as you need to make a plant. And if you have people growing up in the midst of a genocide, if you have people growing up in an area where they could be killed, thrown in a cage, shot, starved, what do you do? What are those people's view of the world? And if you're external to that and you're watching that, and people are talking about God, what does that fit in, right? You can come to the conclusion that God doesn't get involved. It doesn't mean he's not there, it just doesn't get involved. You can come to the conclusion that reality is more complicated. We're actors on a stage in order to grow and learn. And that these events that take place, nothing necessarily gets involved in these events. These are human affairs. Doesn't mean there's not anything else, whatever that is. I think the more language you put around trying to explain it, the less accurate you're going to be. Like, if I build a software program, can that software program ever understand what it's like to be outside the program? Probably not. How do you explain the color blue? How do you explain the color red? How do you explain what it feels like to get stuck by a needle? Like, these are things that are part of life that defy description in any way that people can really understand it short of experiencing it. I guess I'm saying, look, to put a pin in it, we are creating environments that are adverse to growth and self-actualization in regards to human beings. We're damaging ourselves in the environments that we're creating. When I become a hard ass on this stuff, it is because I'm responding to an environment that feels that hard ass is necessary in order to put that dog down, because that dog has gotten out of line. When that dog is put down, I will be love and light. But we need to lose. That dog needs to be put down, and something else needs to take place in our world affairs. And unfortunately, what it seems is that we have gotten so accustomed to being in charge that we think God made us in charge, and that any and everything needs to be done in order to retain power, including and up to destroying the world if we can't run it. Now, the challenge for Russia, China, and Iran, and all these other BRICS nations is, how do you usurp that capability in a way that doesn't have the US in the world with this $1 trillion military budget and his batshit crazy politicians with this warped American exceptionalist point of view that is not anywhere associated with reality? How do you do that? I don't have an answer for that. And is it possible to stumble into a larger war because of it? Yes. 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 1,000 times yes. Are we on the precipice of that? maybe. But you must understand the very fact that you have to say maybe includes the potential of a yes, because it's a maybe. That's terrifying. Like if there was a comet with a 5% chance of destroying the world, okay, 5% seems small, but you're talking about destroying the world. So that 5% is a big fucking deal because of the consequence of what could take place. So, ethics, look, I will tell you this. You don't, people are not ethical because they just want to be nice. People are ethical because that's what's required to have a decent world. If I cheat, steal, lie, murder, kill, what are other people going to do to function in that world that is being created by those activities? If I can't trust you, how can you really trust me? If I can't, if I'm going to function in a way that's adverse to society in order to get an advantage, doesn't that incentivize other people to do the same? My point is, ethics is not just, a thought thing. It's a thing that's necessary to have a decent, functional society. And if you're talking about a world society, even more so, because there's no Leviathan in this. These countries have to be able to deal with each other in terms in which they can understand, trust, believe, work through difficulties, and believe that as they're working through difficulties that they're going to be given even exchange. We don't believe in that. We fundamentally don't believe in that. What did they say? Rules-based order. Our rules. You follow them. How do you have a world that functions with a country that behaves that way? And the answer is you don't. You just don't. If Russia, Iran, China, BRICS nations are trying to create something that is different, that functions differently, that is more earnest in regards to the way it deals with its affairs, that's a reinvigoration of international politics in a way that the United Nations has become defunct, that is a good thing. But you must understand the very basis that it exists is an antagonism to the system that currently is in order. They're going to do everything in their power to keep that from coming to existence. I know BRICS can say, well, hey, we're not a military. But I think what BRICS is missing is that the first rule is to be able to defend whatever you create. And if you don't have the capability of defending what you create, it will be destroyed, right? If you can't defend it, you can't defend it by definition. So saying we're not really military, play fair game, you're not a military. But ultimately, you would need some mechanism to defend the member states or the entirety of the institution in and of itself. I mean, the EU is effectively NATO. They may not call it that, but all intents and purposes, many of the countries in the EU are part of NATO. That's their defensive alliance. The EU, on some level, is defended by NATO. Any country that's attacked, all countries get involved. That is a defense pact, whether they see it that way or not. I'm saying that right now BRICS is this amalgam of countries that are coming together trying to create something. And it may be taking a while for them to create something because there's so many countries, they're so disparate, they're so different. And they're trying to say, okay, what are we going to be? What are we going to do? What are we trying to create? And you have a rules-based order that says we need to strangle that baby in the bathtub. That baby needs to be choked out in the crib. We need to that baby die. We need to do that before it ever becomes anything. Because if it becomes something, by definition of its existence, it's a challenge to our domain. So China, Russia, India, all these countries, they can say to their blue in the face, we're not trying to go after the US. We're not trying to tackle the dollar. We're not trying to be antagonistic. We're not trying to do any of these things. Dude, your very fact that you're breathing is antagonistic to my existence. That is the way they look at it. Now, meaning you can proclaim, we don't think the lady protests too much. You can say to you blue in the face, we're not trying to go after the US. We're not trying to go after your very existence is a thorn that needs to be removed. Because our point of view is that we are a hegemon. And anything that is contesting the strength of the hegemon is a threat to the hegemon. So we need to stop these threats. So, you're getting a dynamic in the world that the way that's breaking down. I guess my point is the hegemonic shit needs to go. That shit is cancerous. It is creating chaos around the globe. You can look at around the globe. Every fire has been set by either the US or the UK, nearly. That shit needs to go. It's a cancer it's a plague on this planet. It is a fucking malignant tumor in the way that it operates and in the chaos that it causes and creates. Nothing good can come from this hegemonic control of the globe. Chaos is a tool of that thing, meaning people being killed, people dying is a tool of empire. And the way that we use it, that shit needs to go. Now, how does that happen? I don't know. Britain lost his empire in a war, but now we have nukes. So you can imagine that world war, as bad as it was, now becomes infinitely more treacherous and becomes a threat to existence of life on the planet as a whole. So, yeah, this is, I don't, how do you get rid of an empire, right? Especially when an empire has nukes and is run by people who are fucking insane. Really good discussion today. Rashid Noor, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see, who else? What is this? BRICS got to stick together and stop allowing NATO to divide it like Iran. Russia's being way too nice with sociopaths. You have to think like the sociopaths to understand the psychopathy. But look, I think Russia gets it now. I think they get it now. Like Putin has said before that he's been too nice, like that he was too trusting. But, when you kill 100,000 Russians, what's your take? Right? Like, could Putin be weak in the face of somebody killing 100,000 Russians? No. He has people around him just like anybody else. There's no power base that is an individual. Like, meaning every person that you see, we always act like the Russian government is just Putin. Every person that you see that is in power has a power base under him to put them in power. It is a law of power. That person is almost like a distillation of whatever is under him, because otherwise, if he wasn't a distillation, whatever was under him, he wouldn't be there. So Putin is the representation of the Russian government, yes, but he is not the only part of the Russian government. There are some hardliners that are around him. They have this thought that if Putin wasn't there, that it'd be loving like, no, he is a moderate. He is a moderate. But I think he grasps what he's dealing with. I think he gets it. Think of the Boris Yeltsin years. Think of what we did to him during those years. Think of the racist education that we were pumping into Ukraine. Think of the gobbling up of all of those states that used to be part of the Soviet Union, giving them money and everything else while depriving the Soviet Union of those resources. Like, we were playing this for keeps. And we did that shit immediately after the Second World War. So I do think he gets it. But you kind of have to be careful with a child with a gun. We have an evil child running around with a handgun. You got to kind of deal with that shit in a certain way, especially if you're not a superpower in the way that the Soviet Union used to project power. You're a superpower, but your focus is not global. It's more so regional in regards to the way you exert power. Yeah, you may send forces into Africa. You may do all that stuff. That's fair game. You have nukes that can go around the world. Again, that's fair game. But it's not like where the U.S. military doctrine is attacking other countries, if that makes sense. It's different. It's not the same. China's a little bit different on that front. China has an industrial base that is breathtaking. Like, when we were in the Second World War and we used to produce stuff for the entirety of the world, well, China is on another level. So you can imagine the amount of ships that they're pumping out, the technology that they're pumping out, the airplanes that they're pumping out, and what that looks like in any kind of military conflict where you have to go against an industrial powerhouse. Okay. How did that work for Germany and Japan when they had to deal with the U.S. pumping shit out to the point where it could support not just its own war effort, but the war effort also of helping the Soviet Union, helping the UK, helping France. I mean, for fuck's sake, like the materials was astonishing. China is on a different level. We lose those war games for a reason. So, you know, does the empire get to the point where it bites off too much and gets into a war that it loses? Maybe. Does it provoke China into something? Maybe. Just like it did with Taiwan, just like it's doing with Iran. That seems to be the playbook. So I guess my point is, I don't think that they're insane. I don't think they're stupid. I think they're looking at this every bit as much as people like me are looking at it, and even more so. They would have more information. They would have more context. It would bite into them more so. So yeah, of course, they're looking into it and working in coordination with one another, especially China and Russia. Iran, for some reason, they want to go bare-chested. I don't know why. It helps to have a friend. Helps to have a friend, especially in this situation. Europe is Nazis again. Yeah, on some level. Abe Malcolm, the Empire censors are at it again. Dude, what are you saying? Well, to be fair, you know, they do the same to me. They censor stuff I put out too. Has a lot to say. Okay. Our carriers have over 5,000. Really? Teddy bear. Really? That's a lot of people to die, man. That's a lot of people to die. That is a lot of people to die. Jamal looks like he's about to pass out. I am wide awake. I promise you, I'm wide awake. No, I'm wide awake. It's early for me. I mean, it's early in the morning. No, man. I mean, my goal in this point is just to kind of cover what's taking place. And I've accomplished that. At this point, I'm just talking to the audience. So don't overdo it, get some shut eye. I've been to bed. I've been to bed. I mean, I didn't sleep, but I've been to bed. Look, I got to be honest with you. I have not had, when I was in Albania, my sleep was relatively normal. I'd finished the show at around 4. I'd go sometimes to get a cappuccino downhill while I book guests and all that stuff. I would cut the videos first before I did anything else. Sometimes I would even have time to play chess before turning in. Here's not that way. Here's rough. It is rough here. Because it's a 12-hour time difference. I made the choice to come here, and so I'm not changing the show. So what that means is it goes from 7 to 10 p.m., sometimes 11. Like last night, it went to like 11:40 or something, just insane. It was like a 4-hour, 5-hour show. Then those have to be cut. And after the video's cut, you have to process it, all that good stuff. And by that time, it's like 3, 4 in the morning. My sleep habits here have been insane. But no, I'm wide awake. In fact, I need to go wash clothes after I finish this video. But I am not having a show today, by the way. Just me. Just give me a heads up. Let's see. Who else? Bobby Kennedy, Cherie. Yes. Loud Dog, Cherie. I think that's Pappas. Grim 44. You have a member of a gang for protection. Maybe that's just Iran versus Israel. No one else involved. Activate alliance. If the U.S. steps in, then the alliance will be activated. Yeah, braided Alistair. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I mean, they may not have a formal military alliance, but it could be a wink and a nod. Based out of necessity. Cherie, gosh, there is Alan Dulles. Alan Dulles, yeah. That was with what is it, administration? That was during the war. That was in the Second World War. In fact, Robert McNamara, that was all those guys. All right. I'm going to end this. I don't often get the time to just sit and talk to my audience. So I'm glad to do it. I went through Super Chats. and I went through a lot of just regular comments. Brian Gilbert, good to see that you're awake. Yes, I'm awake, I promise. I may look tired, but I'm wide awake. I haven't been to bed yet, but I'm wide awake. I have good coffee, very good coffee. There's always one country that has 800 bases around the globe to defend itself. Yes, I ain't that good. I love that name. I love that name. I ain't that good. Yeah, man, you have 800 bases and you're telling people that China's trying to be a hegemon. Think about that shit, right? Think about the mind fuck. Wars piece, the Department of Defense. No, it's the Department of War. In fact, I will go further. Just that alone tells you so much. It's the Department of War. Don't call it Department of Defense. Defense is a euphemism for war. Israel, when it murders a baby, it says, well, that baby was coming after me, man. I had to kill that baby. It was a defense. I murdered that baby in self-defense. Yeah, that shit is a euphemism. Like, you can't even take it seriously at this point. You have 800 military bases around the globe, and you're like, China's trying to become a hegemon. Okay. But you have 800 military bases. I know, but China's trying to become a hegemon. Okay. Calm down. These people are dangerous and they're liars. Jamal, take care of yourself, man. We're powerless over current affairs. Sam Spade, I don't think we're powerless. I don't like that. We as individuals, yes. But I had 5,000 people watching the show 2 days ago. 5,000 human beings. And do those 5,000 human beings, do some of them have their own shows? Do some of them have a point of view? Do some of them talk at the water cooler? Like, meaning, as unimportant and insignificant as the show is, there still may be a significance in the fact that it may reach people who may be able to reach other people that may have significance. I hope that makes sense. The powerless thing I don't like to hear. I mean, yeah, as individuals, we're weak, insignificant in the face of an expansive universe that doesn't give a shit about us. Fair enough, I accept that. In a political system where there's an information war taking place, oh, it matters. We're soldiers. And I don't mean that in the sense of like Morandi. When Morandi is going out, he's giving press briefings and he's talking to the audience and he's trying to get their point of view out to an American audience that never gets that point of view. They're trying to kill him. Why do you think they're trying to kill him? Because media has always been part of war. The ability to start a war, the ability to prolong a war, in many respects depends upon how media is talking about that war. When Vietnam and the media turns against the Vietnam War, they couldn't sustain the war. Listen to the way they talk about it on Fox News, beefing it up as if this is what we have to do, this is what we have to do. Think of the lies that are coming out of them. They're trying to build a nuke. We need to stop her from getting a nuke. These are lies. They're making the shit up. And the question then becomes, okay, well, why do you have to lie about it? You have to lie about it because you need to get the public into a mindset. But if you have to lie about it, then that's an information war. That's narratives. One full of shit. The other one is not. And you're trying to put the kibosh on their capability of putting out a narrative that is lying for the purpose of getting the U.S. embroiled into another war. While that may not reach the highest halls of Congress, it may reach a person at a water cooler. It may reach somebody who was a Trump supporter who says, fuck this is not what I voted for. Those people may talk to other people, meaning it's not insignificant. That's my point. That stuff matters. And we don't necessarily know the significance of what it matters. You just have to hope that when you do good, good follows. It's not always the case. You may, be speaking in a void, but you may not be speaking in a void. You don't know. You do it because it's all you can do. I'm saying it's the same thing with Morandi, right? Morandi goes out there, bares his chest and said, if they kill me, they kill me, but this is my job. I'm going to get this out. I'm going to fight for my country. I've extinguished my energies when I was in those other wars. Right now, my job is media and to give out a correct narrative of events, to give my point of view, to give our point of view so that people who are rational, who don't want war, who are not sycophants, who at the very least look at this is fucking outrageous, even if they voted for Trump. And it may change minds and opinions in the US in a way that puts pressure on the government that makes it harder to do what the government is trying to do. So don't look at it as insignificant. There's no way for you to know the significance. You just do it because it's what's right. Not just what's right, it's what's necessary. Yeah, I'll go with that. I mean, it's true. I hate that. Don't tell me you're insignificant. That's my point. Don't start believing that shit. Ignorance is strength for the empire. Yeah, I guess it is. Everything is called the exact opposite of what it is nowadays. Standing alone, I know, right? It's amazing. We murdered that baby because that baby was looking at me funny. And it was, in self-defense. That kid threw a rock at me. And sure, I'm wearing full military hardware and everything else. But that rock could have hit me. And maybe I would have fell down and hit my head and died. And so I had to shoot that kid because he threw a rock at me. Those hungry people were streaming in for food. And they were doing so aggressively. So yes, we had to bomb the truck that had the food. Like, this is the shit that they say is like King Leopold's soliloquy, where he's making excuses for everything that he does that is so ghastly and horrific. And you read the book like, Jesus Christ, how the fuck is he trying to explain this away? And then you hear the Israelis, and you're like, oh, that's what it looks like in real life. They make shit up. Well, there's a base under the hospital. That's why we had to blow up the hospital. And then they go to the hospital. Here's a gun. See, we found a gun. This proves that there's a base under the hospital. Okay. What about the other hospitals that you destroyed? Was there a base in all of those too? Was there a base in a cancer hospital? Well, at that point, we're several days out and nobody gives a shit anymore. And then you get a US media that's completely compliant and that justifies everything that happens using this muted, soft language. People died today in Gaza. No, they were murdered. They were murdered. Call it what it is. Don't give me the soft, passive language. They were murdered. A child was burned alive at the school. Israel murdered a child and burned him alive. Call it what it is, right? But these are tools of empire that are organizing themselves in order to justify and promote a war that they know the American public is not on board for. Hence, lies, hence obfuscation, hence dropping context, hence dumbing down the public, all of these things. So when people are pushing back on that, whether it's Tucker Carlson, whether it's, Marjorie Taylor Greene, whether it's Matt Gaetz, whether it's, I don't know, these other people on the right, what is the comedian, Dave Smith, Joe Rogan. Okay, that shit matters. Those people have reach, especially if they're turning and saying, hey, this is not what we voted for. Steve Bannon has been brutal. That stuff matters, is what my point. It's information war. And that information war is being fought for the minds of the public, which is why they shut down media in times of war, because they don't want the point of view of the adversary to infect the minds. That's why they shut down the radio station that I used to work at. It matters. If it didn't matter, they wouldn't do it. So, yeah, you're not insignificant. All right. I am going to end this because at this point, I am just babbling to a void. Actually, there are not 1,000 people here, so it's not to avoid. On the overnight shift, saying hello, brother, and thank you. Oh, Wraith, thank you, man. You guys thank me. I'm just doing my job. That's the way I look at it. Who's Loki? I'll look him up. I will look him up. I will look him up, I promise. All right. I have gotten all of the chats. I have hit all of, I've delved into the audience to check on what you guys were talking about. And let's see if there's anything else before we close it. The Sacred Hall. The West produces new Western lies. Talking to the West only produces Western lies. You know, that's the wild part, right? Like, it always amazes me. Like, the West only makes up, what, 14% of the globe? And yet, when it seems that Russia, China, Iran, and many of these countries do their best to ingratiate themselves to get a good headline. And it's like, okay, but dude, you're never going to get a good headline. Like, why do you care? Like, you're never going to get the New York Times to talk about you honestly, short of an alien invasion where you're working with the US to fight it off. Maybe then. But even then, I would imagine that there's going to be hits in that article. And I would imagine at a certain point, Russia just said, fuck it, we're going to take Ukraine. We're going to do what we have to do. But this appeasement strategy that these guys go with, I guess part of it is, okay, we want to keep down chaos. So I get it. But nothing that you do is going to get you a good headline in Europe or in the US, short of just giving up sovereignty and saying, fuck it, you can do what we want, whatever you want. Then you may get a good headline. But short of that, it's not going to happen. And so my thing is always like, why do you care about the headline? Now, you may care about other governments. You do want to seem sane and rational. Like, I take issue with Iran being hit and not delivering True Promise 3 earlier. But there's a power in that. Like, it sounds horrible to say, but it's true. Being the victim in that situation allowed them license to do what they have wanted to do for a very long time. And it is teach Israel a lesson that under normal circumstances was off the table in doing. The rest of the world is okay with it. They applaud it. In fact, I would imagine they watch with popcorn. The 14% of the white world, of the Western world, is going to make these bullshit headlines about what's taking place. They're going to overemphasize some things. They're going to deprioritize other things that matter. This is going to be the way that they cover it. So my point of view is they don't matter because you are never going to get a good headline out of them. By the same token, being rational, trying to be willing to make a deal, trying to be anti-war, that stuff does give you, let's say, clout. Maybe clout's not the right word for it. It does give you a certain amount of leeway, license. Not license, that's not the right word for it either. Support. Like, all things being equal, the rest of the world doesn't necessarily want to be into these wars. So it helps you to say, well, we did everything we could to avoid the war. Now, the US problem is that nobody believes that on their side. Nobody believes it. There's some people that believe that, oh my God, Israel went rogue. But anybody that believes that effectively is looking at a press that is dumbing down the process intentionally. We were intimately involved the entire way through. So, I don't know. That's a heavy price to pay for clout in this way of saying, hey, we're the victims. We were the ones that were attacked, not the permanent victims over there. We were the actual victims in this situation. They attacked us out of hand. So anything we were doing right now is an issue of self-defense. If they stop firing at us, we will stop. And if I'm not mistaken, they did say that. Iran said, if they stop, we'll stop. Israel is not stopping because, again, they believe that they can get the US into the war, in which case it's not the nukes. The nukes is a bug. Taking the government down is a feature, which is what they're trying to do. So, no, man, it's their, yes, Western lies. But keep in mind, a lot of those lies are dropping context. What? As a child, now I'm singing this to you so you can sleep. Oh, that's sweet. But keep in mind, for me, it's 11 in the morning here. It's 11 in the morning. All right. I am officially going to end the stream. Electronic Intifada is really good. They are really good. John Helmer from Electronic Intifada. Look, I would love for them to come on the show, but they don't, like, I got an email from a friend of mine who's been watching my channel for a very long time. And he's like, dude, I know you're a lone wolf. He said, but you should go on other people's shows. Now, that's ironic because I had just gotten on Canadian Preppers. By the way, check them out. He was nice enough to bring me back on. I didn't think he liked me. My normal point of view is that people don't like me. So the fact that he brought me back on, I thought it was very cool. We had a really good conversation. The show went very well. It was a really good interview. I'm going to try to bring him on my show also, to get his take on it. He's from Canada. Has somewhat of a slightly different take, but he's kind of in the mindset of Berletic, Sloboda, and the way that the world is effectively functioning. So he should be a really good guest to bring on. So I'm definitely going to try to get him to come on. But it's called Canadian Preppers. He has foreign policy stuff that goes on that channel. He's really good. He was very, very good. It was a good interview, so definitely check him out. But yeah, the guest was like, hey man, you should go on other people's shows. And he was like, I know you're a lone wolf, but here's the thing. It never works. It just never works. Like, the Tim Black thing was fucking absurd. Just fucking clown. Yeah, I just said that stuff just never works. Like, interviewing people is usually the closest that I can get to making a relationship like that work. Like for example, like Alexander McCarris, Duran. They've been able to forge a relationship where they've been doing that for a very long time. I don't know how they forged their relationship. I don't know how they work together. I don't know any of that stuff. So, I'm not speaking anything about them. I'm just saying both of them are very good together, and both of them have been able to work together while also forging their own channels and just kind of pursuing their objectives. That shit is hard. That shit is hard. That shit is very hard to do. That shit is very hard to do. It's like you have to get your schedule straight, especially for me who do a full-time channel where I'm doing like 4 hours on air or 3 to 4 hours on air, plus booking guests, plus cutting videos. My day goes out to like 10 hours a day, especially if you're following news the entirety of the day also. That's a long fucking day. And so by the time I finish like 4 a.m, I'm just fucking tired, especially in a different time zone. I assume they're in a similar time zone. I assume they may be in the same time zone. Yeah, this shit's hard. This shit's hard. So Jamal never sleeps, very rarely, man. Very rarely. Dimitri Lascaris, Laith, Nima, Judge Napolitano, they're really good. Well, Dimitri comes on the show. Laith comes on the show. I don't know if Nima comes on. I've never seen Nima on another show. By the way, Dialogue Works is really good. He's also really good work. Judge Nat. I like Judge Nat. I actually like Judge Nat. He's rational. It gets a little, script is not the right word for it. Repetitive. But that's all of us. The thing about the war, it's not that wars are good, so do not misunderstand me what I'm saying here. I remember when the Ukraine war started, and it was invigorating. That sounds fucked up, right? But it's true, like I'm being transparent. There's a surge of energy. Let me say it this way. I don't know how everybody else deals. And I remember when it started, I had just met my current ex. Of course, I had gotten divorced. I think I went maybe 8 months. I met a woman that ended up started, my future ex. And it was new. There was this kind of energy about it. And then the war started. And when the war started, initially, I didn't quite get it. Like we had talked about Nord Stream for so long that I didn't really get the significance of it. And then when the war started, in the beginning, I was like, okay, what the fuck is this about? And I understood the basics, the mechanics of it, but I didn't get the severity of it. When I got the severity of it, oh, dude, it was like electricity. Like, it's so outrageous. It's that part. And it's the level of outrageousness that gives you this pep, but it's like an energy that just shoots through you like electricity. And man, those interviews, monologues on the radio station for the first like month or two, fantastic. Some of the best work. But then it goes on for 3 years. And it just, there's no way to keep that up. Like how many days can you be outraged, right? At what point do you say something different? It feels like you're just saying the same thing day in and day out because you've given your take. You're bringing guests on, they're giving their takes. And there may be things that take place on the battlefield, but all things being equal, you've said everything that you have to say. And now you have 3 more years for the war. Then this happens. And that same level of outrage happens like, this is fucking outrageous. You're trying to get all these people killed. You have a genocide that you watch for all of these days. And then you go after Iran, and Iran responds. And the outrage turns into this deep sense of justice. I guess my point is it prioritizes the mind in a way that doing regular shows doesn't do. And I can't say that I like doing the war stuff because it feels fucked up. But when you have a focus, when you have a clear objective of right and wrong, when you have this idea of this is so beyond the pale of what's right and wrong, it focuses the mind. It clarifies what you're doing. There's so many things that you do sometimes where you are unclear on right and wrong in that process. I am very clear on right and wrong on this one. And even on the other one, very clear on right and wrong. And I would say there's like 80% of the world that agrees with me on this feeling like justice, considering what Israel has been doing and considering that nobody's gotten involved up to this point. So no, man, it's yeah, they do good work. A little bit. Yeah, no buts. They do good work. Dimitri's show is called Reason to Resist. Dimitri is fantastic. He's really good too. And Leif has a really good show also. All right, you and Nick Cruz will be good together. Nick has been on the show once, but he never came back. Again, as I pointed out, my assumption is that people generally, when I'm engaging, don't like me. And, you know, when you're doing interviews and stuff like that, there's certain people you click with very well. In which case, it's like, oh, okay, this goes well. This is great. Ted Raw is one of those people. Dan Cavallo is one of those people. Like where they seem to enjoy, like legit enjoy coming on the show. KJ No, also. Like they seem to legitimately enjoy coming on the show, in which case they're a joy to talk to because you feel like I'm not begging them to do something. I'm not pushing them to do it. They just actually enjoy it. And they get something out of it, whether it's views, whether it's attention, or whether it's just a good conversation. Jeff Rich is becoming like that, right? Where he seems to legit enjoy it. We have really good conversations, really fun. I like talking to Dan Lazar. Dan Lazar always says yes. We get on show and argue, but he always says yes. Sarah Bills, enjoy talking to her. Hopefully I'm not annoying her, but I always enjoy those conversations. It's very hard for me to name them because we end up all over the place, but it's fun. But not everybody's like that. Like there's some people where you feel like you're pushing to come on, that they, all things being equal, want to be doing something else. That shit sucks. In those cases, I feel like, okay, this person doesn't really like me, but they come on the show for an interview. I don't want to badger. I don't want to push anybody. You invite, but that's all you can do. And so Nick has been on the show once. He's fantastic on the show. He does extremely good work with RBN. But I haven't been able to get him back. Also, but that's okay. It's a choice, right? It's not a big deal. But he does fantastic work. Thank you. Well, you don't have to thank me, just so my job. So happy to have your stream recently, Sunny FX. Well, thank you, Sunny. I'm glad you can join. Tim is in a bubble. See, I haven't followed Tim's stuff, so I can't tell one way or the other what Tim Black is doing. I don't care. I don't appreciate some of the shit that he said because he's lying through his teeth. I'm not going to get into it. Yeah, not going to get into it. Doesn't matter. RBM would love Jamal. I don't think so. I keep telling you, working with other channels is hard. It's just hard. I don't know how people do it. It's like you chafe under the weight of trying to work with other people in this. I've not been able to master it at all. And so at this point, I do interviews. Interviews seem to work well. And just go from there. John Hammer, Australian political pundit John Hammer is fantastic. He is very good. Agreed. He's very good. I don't know his stuff to get him on the show, though. I don't know his information. Jamal is 4:29 here in the UK. I'm on my last. Get some rest. Benny, get some rest. Get some rest, man. Get some rest. Get some rest. Let's see. All questions are rather dumb at times. Sometimes. But I think you're talking about judging that. But it's a good show. I used to enjoy a show. Like, for example, Command Chief Fritz. First time I found it was on Judge Nat. I was blown away by the interview. I did not even know who Command Chief Fritz was when he first started coming on my show. Like, I put two and two together eventually. It was like, holy shit, you're the guy who Nat interviewed. And I remember driving in my car from work that day, listening to that entire conversation just straight through. It was fascinating. Of course, he has the book, the Betrayal book, where he talks about how that stuff started, how the wars and everything else started in Iraq, and how we were lied into a war. And, he pointed out, he says, my one mission in life was to prevent us from doing this to Iran. Like, I don't want us to lose our people to Iran. And he says, I failed in that mission. He said, I failed in that mission. Yeah. No, they have good stuff. The clips that they play, all of those things, they're really good. Yeah, no complaints. Like I said, they're going to be slightly repetitive, but they're really good. I don't speak on Judge Napolitano. He's good. I don't have any issue with any of them. Richard Medhurst is probably in your time. Elizabeth, Music and Arts. Yeah, but Richard Medhurst has a much larger show, so he's not going to want to come on my show. That stuff matters, man. That stuff matters. Like, you'd be surprised the number of people I've reached out to and they just say no. It's a prerogative, right? I say tell people no too at times, especially if it's ironically or too early in the morning. I think I tried to get Judge Knapp on the show at one point. Trump fears Iran becoming another Libya. News. Why? Why would he care? Why would he care? Why would he care? How come you're in Malaysia? Francis Ellie. Francis, when the company went belly up, I needed to save money. And I was burning through savings too fast. And so I had to make a choice. Even in making the choice, it would have been difficult to stay in the States making that choice. I found a Airbnb in Albania for $350. And I realized that even with the flight included, within a month or two, not only would I make the money back, I'd be able to actually save for the first time since losing the job. And then I was like, okay, do you really want to go back to the States? At that point, my travel bug kicked in. I didn't want to leave, believe it or not. I know I used to like to travel for work and all, but I got to the point where I was like, I'm too old for this shit. I had been in DC for like 5 years, so it was nice being back in Richmond with family, friends, Kabutos, Captain D's, chicken box. It's like I experienced my city through food. Yeah, I enjoyed being back home. It's just being back home. And when I mean back home, back in Richmond. But everything was too expensive, especially without having a job in the proper sense of like the station. And so when I saw the potential for Albania, I was like, shit, man, my expenses dropped to X amount. This is I can save for the first time. Fuck it, let's do it. It worked the first month, kind of. That month I broke my phone and I had to get a phone sent in. So that fucked me over, but that's okay. Second month, the plan worked. And then the thing is, okay, are you going back to Richmond? Okay, well, I don't have a hotel or apartment back in Richmond. I'll be back in the same situation. I don't have a car. I sold all that stuff. I live out my suitcase. So I was like, okay, fuck it. Let's go to next. What's next? Malaysia. And so again, same modus operandi. Save money. Focus on your channel. Save money. Focus on your channel. Save money. Focus on your channel. It's not about traveling. I've been to Malaysia before. It's about isolation. Sincere focus in regards to what you're doing in craft. And to save in the process. So the longer you can stay in one place, the more you can save. And then if, I guess next might be Thailand, maybe Nepal, I'm not sure. I do want to visit Moscow or Russia, and I do want to visit China, but that all depends on costs. So that's why I'm in Malaysia. It's about doing work and saving cash. Dr. Wilmer Leon is fantastic. He is fantastic. I love talking to Dr. Wilmer Leon. Love talking to Wilmer. Am I on vacation? No, I'm not on vacation. If I'm on vacation, I would be doing the show. If I'm on vacation, I'm not doing the show. No, I'll be back in America at some point. I haven't left. Sabby Sabs is fantastic. I love talking to her. Professor Morandi, love talking to him. It's funny, my relationship with Morandi has evolved. Initially, when I used to start talking to him, I used to get the sense that, okay, Morandi doesn't want to talk to me. He's not interested. And somewhere along the way in those conversations, he's become very warm and open. I remember when I injured myself in Malaysia, in Albania, I think that when I was running for a cab, fell, broke my phone, fucked up my face, fucked up my arm. I have scars. I still have scars, all this stuff. My hands were like just completely scarred up. My wrist still hurts to this day. It still throbs. In fact, it's throbbing now. And he was like, hey, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? He was like, he was very warm and kind as he was dealing with me. No, the relationship evolved with him. I enjoy talking to him. I've spoken to Chris Hedges once. Chris Hedges is a very hard man to track down, though. I've spoken to him once. No, BJ Prasad. BJ used to come on the show when I was on Fault Lines. I've been able to reach him since. But he's very good. He's exceptional. Michael Peretti is awesome. He is awesome. He is absolutely awesome. No, look, you guys have good names. The issue is not the names. The issue is getting them on the show. That's not easy. It's not easy. Some people just... Look, I would tell you there's some shows I would go on because I feel like I owe those people. Oh, it's not the right word for it. I feel like you've developed a warm enough relationship where you're open to do it. So, especially if they've come on my show, I'm more inclined to go on theirs just because it feels like at that point I do owe them. It's like just reciprocity. Sabby will have me anytime she wants, providing it's not like 2 a.m. Kim Iverson, same thing. How could I not go in Kim Iverson's store? She is awesome. Love that girl. Or love that woman. Even though we fight like cats and dogs every time she's on the show, love her to death. And her dad apparently used to watch my show and is what got her into it, which blows my mind, right? Every time she tells me that, it blows my mind. So I feel this kind of kinship with her and that stuff. No, man, there's some really good shows out there. She is phenomenal because she is fearless. She is fucking fearless. She is fantastic. Like, she would... So when she used to come on the radio station, her and I used to have wars over COVID. Oh, we used to have wars over COVID. Just brutal wars. And she would go plowing right into the, right into the breach on whatever issue it is. Doesn't matter what the issue is. She will state her point of view and she would state it firmly and she would go plow right in. Opposition be damned. She gives you her point of view. I don't care how you take it. This is my point of view. Got to respect that. That's kind of the point, right? Got to respect that. She is phenomenal. She is absolutely phenomenal. No, I mean, there are a lot of good people who kick ass. Your stamina is impressive, Jamal. Thanks for all you do. Dude, I'm just talking. We're just talking. I'm not digging ditches. I'm just talking. We're just talking. Not doing anything important. Like in the sense of, running a triathlon. Hey, Jamal, please continue what you're doing, bro. I watch you 1 to 2 times per day. Really? Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Every time the stream show the crow talking down the flag. Talking down the flag. Oh, the show. Yeah, that is the funniest shit in the world, right? You're talking about this. This is the funniest shit ever. I call this God got involved.
אנרכיסט, הלו. עזוב את הדגל, בחייאת. אני בשוק.
What if the Ayatollah has a military division where they're training birds to do this? Can you imagine that? Like, that is the funniest shit in the world to me. That bird could have been doing anything. It could have been crapping on a car. It could have been flying somewhere. It could have been doing anything, and it could have been anywhere. And something so moved it in that moment to say, fuck this flag. Fuck this flag. I am going to start a rumor. I think the Iranian military, the IRGC, has a division of birds, of crows. And the division of crows flies around in Israel and knocks down flags. I think that bird was trained to do that. They may have hundreds of those birds just going out doing shit like that. It's like, not only are we going to beat you militarily, we're going to demoralize you by having birds knock down your flag. That's what I think is going on. That's the way I describe what's going on. That's what I'm going to run with. That is what I'm going to run with. Your stamina is impressive. That sounds so dirty. I hope you get some rest after the epic stream. Crystal. Yeah, I'll see. I have work to do. So, in that work since I have laundry and stuff like that. Also, I need to book the show for next week. What I've learned is if you book show in advance, you're better off. Trying to book it in the moment is horrendous. And so if you can get and nail down your guests before the next week, you're better off. All right. I know I keep saying all right, and then I end up talking more. But I am going to say you guys are phenomenal. Division Poe, thank you, Jamal. Don't thank me. I'm just doing my job. Fancy meeting you here. Sup, Scrub. Bad Cookies. I love that name. That sounds like a brand of weed. What is this? 7-8. What is this? 7 and as Witchblade. Oh, I love these names. Just got to say, prayer does work, but what you do now is prayer. Thank you. Prayer does work, believe it or not. Not in the way I think people think, though. It's focused thought. Science has a belief, materialist thinking, that your brain is in, like your mind, your thinking is in your brain, and your brain is encased in your skull. But we don't know if that's true as a flat fact. It's true that if you cut somebody open, you're going to see a brain. But it's very possible that consciousness is the creation of all that. Your consciousness is creating a projection. And that projection has these elements of life. Like, for example, when you're in a dream state, you have a body, you're looking out eyes, you're functioning in it, you look up at the sky, there's stars. You have dramas, you may have sex, you may be chased by a bear, all sorts of weird shit. And you never think this stuff is abnormal. You think usually it's normal, with the exception of if you're in a lucid dream. And then you wake up and you're here. And one is consistent. And so you said that one is real. The other one is all over the place. So you said one is fake. But how do you know the same material conditions that is creating that dream space where you have a mind, you have eyes? If you were opened up in the dream, you probably would have a heart. It seems like the same faculties at work. We assume that thoughts are in your brain, but we don't know that. For all we know, there's a morphogenic field. For all we know, there's something that's creating some kind of connection that allows us to, meaning there may be a process of something that interacts with the body that allows it to function. And some people say, well, yeah, but if you cut somebody's brain open, it doesn't work. It's like, yeah, but if I break your TV, it also doesn't work. But there's nothing in the TV. There's no little person in the TV per se, right? I don't know. It could be more complicated than that. My point is this. There's a lot of research. In Princeton, SRI, there's a lab in Virginia, remote viewing that used to take place with the government, where they used to do that stuff like Ingalls Swan, Joe McMoneagle. That stuff works. And the fact that it works gets across that there's something else. Like, this materialist world doesn't work if that works. And that stuff works. The stuff that Ingalls Swan could do is just amazing. Joe McMoneagle, the stuff that he could do was amazing. Pat Price, amazing. I mean, fuck, they think they murdered Pat Price. I mean, he's working for the CIA and whatnot. Pat Price came in one day and says, hey, there, I think he said like 7 alien bases around the planet. And here, this is where they are. Like, some of these guys were astonishingly good at what they did, at what they could do. That is indicative of something more or something else that we just aren't getting our heads around. My point is, yes, I wouldn't call it prayer, though. It's more focused thought, intention, more than prayer. Kind of like this ability to a quantum mechanical universe where probability is based into the bricks of it, and the ability to shift probability in minute scales one way or the other that overall has larger outcomes with the ability to do it. That I believe in. Prayer has a religious connotation. All right. You guys have a fantastic day. You guys have a fantastic day. I am going to call this a day. This was indeed an epic marathon thing. I came on to stay for maybe an hour just to do my spiel. But I am happy to be able to talk with you guys. I rarely get the opportunity to do it. So you guys have a phenomenal day. Well, actually, you guys have a phenomenal night. It's a day for me. I will not see you this evening for me, tomorrow morning for you. I'm going to rest today. This is going to be a rest day. And I know it's a bit ironic. I'm saying a rest day when I did a fucking 4-hour stream. But look, I enjoy doing this. There was no way to know whether or not, especially when I first started, if anybody was going to watch, if anybody gave a shit, if anybody cared. As I told you, my assumption is I am disliked. It's kind of an assumption until otherwise proven. So there was no way to know whether the channel was going to grow, whether it was going to succeed at what it was. But, like anything else, you can't really care about that. You just focus on your objective and you move towards your objective. The other stuff doesn't really matter. You have an objective, you accomplish your objective. If you fail later, fair enough. If you need to make adjustments, fair enough. But you go. You can't, doubts don't matter. My first 2 weeks was fucking calamity. And I think anybody who saw those shows was just a train wreck. But they got better. And they got better. One foot in front of the other. And you kept going. They got better. And the show started to grow and started to gain some level of traction. That was only possible with you all. When I make the argument about Jeff Bezos, it's saying it applies to me also. If Jeff Bezos had a great idea and he didn't have workers, he would be sitting in a warehouse by himself. A show is nothing without its audience. And in real terms, you guys have one of the best chats that I've ever come across. I know that sounds very self-serving. And I also know that channels are on some level a reflection of the host. And me saying that is, again, on some level can be taken as self-serving. But I don't say it in a self-serving way. I mean it. You go in some chats, like these things are worlds. Like each channel is a world. And the host on some level is kind of like a focal point of that world. But the conversations and everything else that go on are outside of the show's focal point. And so the audience is almost like a thing unto itself, is a world unto itself, with the host being somewhat of a focal point where they're aggregating around. If you go into other channels, you would be shocked as shit at what goes for discourse, the way they talk to each other, the things that the host says. Like, that stuff is astonishing at times. You guys have intellectual conversations. You know the topic, you know the subject matter. You tend to be respectful of each other. Even when you're in arguments, it tends to be somewhat tame as compared to some of the other stuff on other channels. I get it, it's self-serving, because on some level, the only reason people will be on a certain channel is because they, on some level, agree with the host, even if it's 50%, even if it's 40%. It's something about it that they kind of agree. But look, man, I don't have a show without you. And I appreciate all of you for being here, allowing me to do what I do. So this is me giving a thank you. I'm going to say you guys have a phenomenal day. And I'll see you guys probably Monday, providing nothing fucking outrageous happens. So we'll see if Seymour Hersh is right and they attack over the weekend. I'll try to do a show over the weekend. We'll see. Let's hope nothing goes awry. You guys have a phenomenal night, okay? Thank you for joining me. We had a huge audience. I think we had like over 1,000 people with me just rambling. You guys have a good day. I'll see you guys hopefully not over the weekend, but definitely on Monday morning. Be safe.